Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. I, a disciple of the god of law, became the biggest villain at the beginning. Chapter 21. Outside the Saint Laurent School of Magic, in the mountains about 100 miles away. The mountains are continuous and the forests are deep. From time to time, you can hear the howling of some magic beasts. But the strength of these magic beasts is not very strong. This place is still within the sphere of influence of the Saint Laurent School of Magic, and naturally does not allow powerful magic beasts to appear around. Every year, the instructors in the school will come in person to eliminate some dangerous and powerful magic beasts, leaving only magic beasts below level 5, approximately equivalent to 5-star magicians and level 5 knights. Because of this, over time, this place has become a place for many students in the school to test. The strength of the magic beasts is not very strong, but it can bring certain dangers and play a great role in practical training. In addition, there are many spiritual herbs and medicines in the deep forest. It is naturally a place worth taking risks for students. In fact, in addition to the Saint Laurent School of Magic, many adventurers or exploration teams that are not very strong will come here to try their luck. At this time, in the depths of the dense forest, a group of magicians are taking risks together. They wore the same black robes, with a blooming purple Saint Laurent tattooed on their chests. This showed their identities, from Saint Laurent School of Magic. At this time, these magicians were in trouble. They were all 2-star magicians, but they encountered a 4th-level magic beast in the deep forest. A very tall wolf, which looked to be a full 10 feet tall and 2 sticks long, walked out of the jungle. The tall and mighty body, strong limbs, sharp claws, and ferocious appearance all showed how terrible its deterrence was. Awoo! Looking at the group of humans who broke into its territory, the giant wolf grinned and howled, revealing a mouthful of teeth flashing with sharpness. The dripping saliva, scarlet eyes, and the 5-day no longer showed that the giant wolf was extremely hungry. Saber-toothed wolf. We actually encountered a saber-toothed wolf. This luck is so bad. We just encountered this big guy when we entered the depths. It's even worse than the dark food made by John. A blonde and blue-eyed man with a big beard couldn't help but curse in a low voice. Who is the dark food? You are the dark food, and your whole family is the dark food. Hearing this, a thin man standing next to him couldn't help but refute. Faced with such a tense situation, they can still have a quarrel. In fact, although these 4 or 5 magicians are holding their staffs and ready for battle, they don't show nervousness on their faces. Everyone's eyes are looking at a man. With long golden hair, black pupils, and handsome looks, Wu no longer shows his extraordinary temperament. Especially, there is always a slight arc at the corner of his mouth, which gives people a sense of evil and crazy handsomeness. Such a temperament is undoubtedly very attractive to women. As it is now, in addition to the 2 men standing in the front row, there are 2 beautiful female magicians beside this person. At this moment, these 2 female magicians are guarding this person. When they look at this blonde man, they will show tenderness, and when they look at each other, their eyes are tit for tat. In such a scene, anyone can see that these 2 young women are jealous of the blonde man. Hansen, we will attract the firepower, and the rest is up to you. At this time, the thin magician shouted without turning his head. Hearing this, the blonde man in the center of the crowd, Hansen, showed a confident smile. Don't worry, leave it to me. His voice was not loud, but after he said it, the 4 magicians around him showed a look of peace of mind. During this period of time, they formed a team by chance and tried in the forest. During the trial, Hansen not only showed his magic power far beyond his current 3-star magician, but also showed his unparalleled leadership and wisdom, successfully convincing the 4 senior students of the Magic Academy. As their trials continued, they were also full of confidence in Hansen. In their opinion, no matter what difficulties they encountered, Hansen could turn danger into safety and gain benefits. And all this, naturally, was no exception. The fact is just as they thought. Under Hansen's command, the 4 magicians played their roles to the fullest. They successfully played the saber-toothed wolf around. Then, after Hansen's long-prepared nirvana successfully hit, accompanied by a wail, the 4th-level magic beast fell in the deep forest. Hansen, your strength is getting stronger and stronger. When sorting out the results of the battle, the short John looked at the wound on the abdomen of the saber-toothed wolf, and couldn't help showing a look of admiration on his face. although they formed a team for less than half a month. But in the past half month, he witnessed with his own eyes that this third-year student who was originally unknown in the academy, from being unknown to soaring to the sky. Except for the first time, he could feel that every time Hansen attacked, he was stronger than the previous time. In other words, his strength was growing almost every moment. This is very terrifying. Although this saber-toothed wolf is only level 4, it has reached the peak of level 4, and its strength is infinitely close to level 5. You can defeat it, so I think your strength is almost close to that of a 5-star magician. At this time, the magician with a long beard also said, I think you will participate in this academy's assessment trial. Of course, Hansen will not only participate, but in my opinion, he may even win the first place. The two female magicians also spoke one after another. In their words, they were very respectful to Hansen. First place. It seems that Hansen has great ambitions. But this year, many powerful people have emerged in the Magic Academy. It's not easy to win the first place. Not to mention that there is also the prince, he may also participate. The first place is probably a bit uncertain. John and the bearded wizard were not so optimistic, but they still blessed their friends, but I think the top 10 is definitely possible. That's right, I don't want the top 10, Hansen can definitely win the first place. That prince is definitely not Hansen's opponent. The two female magicians echoed. Hearing these boasts, Hansen just smiled and didn't say anything. But he asked them to collect all the materials from the saber-toothed wolf. The materials from the 4th level monster can also get a lot of gold coins if they are sold. The 4 people were busy. And Hansen walked aside and watched them busy with a smile. But he was thinking in his heart, system, calculate my harvest. Congratulations to the host, you killed the 4th level saber-toothed wolf and got 49 disposable points. The system's voice sounded in Hansen's mind. Hearing this, Hansen showed a touch of joy on his face and asked, System, how many disposable points do I have now? 132 points. Hansen pondered for a moment, thinking about the college assessment that would come soon. After thinking for a while, he said, help me add all the disposable points to my cultivation. As the host wishes. As soon as the voice fell, Hansen felt a very deep magic suddenly emerge from his body, heading towards his spiritual sea of consciousness. At the same time, he also showed a more powerful momentum than before. 4-star senior magician. John and the other 4 sensed this momentum and exclaimed in unison. Hansen has been promoted to a 4-star senior magician. Great, Hansen, you are amazing. You became a 4-star magician so quickly. I remember you just became a 3-star magician more than half a month ago. In just 2 months, you have become a 4-star senior magician from a 2-star junior magician. Such talent is really enviable. In my opinion, Hansen's talent should be no less than that of His Highness Lynn. They said excitedly, and Hansen slowly opened his eyes. Feeling the magic power in his body that is much stronger than before, a smile appeared on his face. Finally I became a 4-star magician. There is still half a month before the assessment. With my current growth progress, I may not be able to reach 5 stars by the time the assessment comes, but I should be able to become a 4-star senior magician. By the way, I can also strengthen my magic power. With the realm of a 4-star magician and these trump cards of mine, there should not be many people in the academy who can match me. But I must be wary of that person. A figure suddenly appeared in his mind. Tall and slender, with a dignified demeanor, indifferent eyes, and extraordinary temperament. It seemed that nothing in the world was worth his attention. Lynn. This figure appeared in his mind. At the beginning, when Ron provoked Lynn, he was also in the crowd. When Lynn showed his aura, Hansen naturally felt it. At that time, he had not yet obtained the system. Facing Lynn, he was like an ant facing a real dragon in the sky. I just felt that I was so small. Hansen was originally an extremely mediocre magician. He was born in a small border town. 3 years ago, a white-haired 1-star magician traveled around the continent and came to this border town by chance. He was invited by the residents of the town to test the magic talent for the children. In the Holy Continent, magicians have a very high status. Once anyone becomes a formal magician, they can be favored by the nobles. If you are willing to be loyal to these nobles, you can also get the title of Lord. Although this is the lowest title, for civilians, it is already an unattainable dream for them. This means that they will enter the class of nobles from now on. And if the talent is very high, it is even more likely to be granted a real title by the empire. Therefore, the biggest expectation of the people in the town is that they hope that their children can detect the magic talent, so that they can soar into the sky in the future, cross the class, and become a real noble. Hansen, it was in this test that he was detected to have a magic talent. It was just because the old magician was of a low level that he could only detect that Hansen had a talent, but he didn't know what kind of talent he had. But even so, after getting this news, his parents were ecstatic. That night, they sold some of their property and sent him to the nearest city for more professional testing. After the test results came out, everyone was stunned. Medium magic talent in the fire system. Although it doesn't seem high, you have to know that having medium magic talent means that you have the hope of stepping into the realm of a great magician in the future. A great magician is already a great figure in the principality. Even the Duke has to come out in person to treat him with courtesy. So, when Hansen was found to have medium magic talent, you can imagine how happy his father was. In order not to waste Hansen's talent, the old magician suggested sending Hansen to the Saint Laurent School of Magic to receive the most superior teaching. However, from their border town to Saint Laurent, it is more than tens of millions of miles along the way. With their family, how can they afford such a fare? Hansen's father was unwilling to let his child's talent be delayed, so he begged for help from his grandfather and grandmother, and begged the whole town to collect a few gold coins. In addition, the old magician wanted to make friends, so he gave 5 gold coins. With this money in hand, Hansen embarked on the road to study in Saint Laurent. After going through hardships, Hansen finally came to Saint Laurent, and after passing the assessment, he was very lucky to become a student. However, after successfully enrolling, his life was not as good as Hansen thought. Saint Laurent Magic Academy, geniuses are everywhere. And Hansen, with only a medium magic talent, coupled with a humble background, among this group of nobles, he is inconspicuous like a weed. Just like this for 3 years. He barely stepped into the 2-star magician. Hansen has also accepted his fate. He thought that he could become a 3-star magician in 5 years, graduate successfully, and then return to his hometown to serve a great noble and gain a real status. He lived his life in a dull way. But who knew that just after he accepted his fate, the system appeared. Everything about him was changed. In less than 2 months, he went from an unknown weed to a celebrity in the academy, and broke through the realm continuously to become a 4-star senior magician. In addition, he also strengthened his magic power and magic talent many times. Now, he has become a genius. He has the opportunity to communicate with Lynn on an equal footing, compete on the same stage, and even suppress him. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but clench his fists. Lynn, I hope you will also participate in the assessment this time. I will suppress you in front of everyone. I want everyone to know that I, Hansen, am the #1 genius of Saint Laurent Magic Academy. Only I, Hansen, can step into the realm of God and live above the stars in the future. First place. I must win. He secretly made this oath in his heart. Perhaps he himself did not notice it. Because of the continuous improvement of his strength, he is no longer as timid as usual. Instead, he has a noble temperament, speaks gently, speaks with moderation, and his behavior is full of confidence and publicity. In addition, he has washed his marrow many times recently, which has made him look much more handsome. Many people are full of good feelings towards him. But he could feel the changes in the past 2 months. The unanimous recognition and following of classmates, the attention of more and more tutors, and the secret love of many beautiful women. This made him realize more and more clearly. He is indeed the son of the world. The son of the world who is blessed by God and loved by countless people. The assessment of Saint Laurent Magic Academy is about to begin. This assessment, except for the freshmen who just entered this year, all students from the 2nd to 5th grade must participate. It is very important for the 5th graders. Therefore, the results of this assessment will directly determine whether they can graduate smoothly. As for the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grades, although they only participate with the 5th graders, this assessment will also serve as their year-end summary. It will be recorded on their graduation transcripts in the future. In such a situation, no one dares to be careless. Everyone is waiting with all their strength. In the last half-month, students studied magic like crazy, purchased alchemical drugs, and tried their best to find any useful items that could improve their grades. Lynn occasionally went out and saw these hurried students. In a trance, he felt like he had returned to the college entrance examination in his previous life. How similar is this scene? He was very experienced and immediately moved his reading place from the library to his residence. Sure enough, in the following time, the huge library in the academy was full every day. There were students everywhere who wanted to sprint at the last moment. Lynn, on the other hand, was in her own residence, enjoying the careful care of her personal maid every day, and she lived a happy life. At the same time, the academy also announced the examiners and tutors for this assessment. The 3 examiners are all holy magic tutors at the sanctuary level, and they will record the students' scores. There are also 20 tutors who are participating, most of whom are 7-star, 8-star, and 9-star. Their duty is to take care of the safety of the students. Although it is a practical assessment, it is inevitable that uncontrollable accidents will occur, resulting in large-scale casualties among students, and necessary safety protection is still required. This is the normal process every year. But it is worth noting that, in addition to the 3 examiners and 20 tutors, this year there is actually an additional deputy examiner, which is different from previous years. The key is that this deputy examiner did not disclose his identity. This caused many students to talk about it and speculate privately. But no matter what, as time goes by, the day of the assessment is getting closer and closer. Half a month later, the annual year-end assessment of Saint Laurent Magic Academy finally kicked off under the expectation of everyone. The entrance of the academy was already crowded. At least thousands of students gathered here. Saint Laurent School of Magic, as the oldest and most powerful academy on the continent, naturally had many students. From the 1st to the 5th grade, there were more than 5,000 people in total. It seemed a lot, but in fact, compared with the students who applied for the exam every year, there were very few. It can be said that these 5,000 students are the top and the most outstanding in magic on the entire continent. They will become the mainstream and core of magicians in the Holy Continent in the next 100 or even hundreds of years. So many magicians gathered together, even if most of them were 1-star or 2-star, with only a small number of 3-star magicians, but when the number reached a certain level, the scene was extremely shocking. Young men and women in black robes were chatting and laughing here, and each of them had a good demeanor, and their appearance and qualifications were superior, and it was rare to see any ugly appearance. After all, those who could become magicians and enroll in Saint Laurent were mostly children of nobles. There are as many female chi refiners here as there are men. Most of them have beautiful faces and graceful figures, and they are as beautiful as spring orchids and autumn chrysanthemums. Among them, there are a few who are particularly outstanding, like cranes standing out from the crowd of chickens, just like stars and bright moons. For example, the woman standing in the front. She has long golden hair and deep amber eyes. The bloated wizard robe cannot hide her graceful figure. Her skin, like a bright moon, shines brightly under the sun. It's Blake Adeline. She's here too. Adeline, my goddess. I remember Adeline should be in the 3rd grade this year, but it is rumored that she has become a 4th-level magician. What a great talent. 4th-level magician. That's the news from the first half of the year. I heard that Adeline has been traveling for half a year and just came back recently. She has already touched the edge of a 5th-level great magician. If it weren't for the upcoming assessment, I'm afraid that the next time you see her, this goddess will already be a 5th-level great magician. It's so scary. She has become a 5th-level great magician in just the 3rd grade. Such talent is really shocking. She is getting more and more beautiful. I don't know how lucky people will be able to marry her in the future. In the crowd, countless male students were whispering and casting hot eyes. But Adeline, who was being talked about by people, seemed to be invisible. She just stood there expressionlessly. As time went by, soon all the students participating in the assessment had arrived. Among them, several influential figures in the college also received everyone's attention. As a rising star in recent months, Hansen has naturally become the focus of everyone's attention. In the crowd, John and the other 4 felt the gazes from all directions. Although they knew that these gazes were not directed at them, they still subconsciously straightened their backs. Especially the two female magicians who secretly liked Hansen, their faces showed unconcealed admiration. They looked at Hansen standing in front, with a straight figure and solemnity, with incomparable pride in their eyes. This is the man they like. No matter where he is the most eye-catching existence in the crowd. Ding ding ding. At this time, a bell sounded from deep in the academy. The square, which was originally a little noisy, suddenly became quiet. Everyone knew that the tutors and examiners were here. So everyone was quiet. Soon, figures flew out from the academy, and a total of 20 powerful magicians stood in the air. Their faces and temperaments are different. Some are already white-haired and wrinkled, while others still look like young boys and girls in their 20s. However, most of them look mature and steady middle-aged. These 20 magicians slightly opened their own auras, and suddenly a strong momentum swept the entire square. These are the instructors in the academy, responsible for the safety of this outing assessment. At the same time, 3 powerful auras suddenly came from the depths of the mountains and came to the front in the blink of an eye. These 3 are all dressed like orthodox magicians. One has silver hair and looks like an old man. The other 2 are a middle-aged man and a mature lady. They are floating in the air with their feet on the clouds, and there are colorful magic elements behind them. Their own demeanor is even more extraordinary. The aura is not exposed at all, but it gives people a sense of unparalleled power. These are the 3 examiners of this assessment. The holy magic instructors who have entered the holy realm. When they arrived, they did not directly announce the assessment tasks and goals, but sat cross-legged and closed their eyes to rest. Seems to be waiting for something. What are they waiting for? Seeing this scene, all the students had this question in their minds. Their doubts did not last long, and the answer was soon revealed. Deep in the academy, a stream of light suddenly rose from the building complex where the Saint Domain strongmen were located, and then flew towards this side. And when this light arrived near, all those who saw the appearance of the person coming were shocked. It turned out to be him. Wearing a black robe, with a cold face and deep and indifferent eyes, he was in the air, overlooking everyone. Looking at this person, everyone felt a sense of insignificance from the depths of their souls. Looking up, it was like an ant looking up at a real dragon. In the square, thousands of students, if placed in his place, would be elites among magicians and respected by the world. However, at this moment, everyone felt an indescribable inferiority in their hearts. And who else could make the thousands of best young magicians on the road have such thoughts, except for the disciple of the God of Law who was born with natural talent and knowledge? The person who came was Lynn. He actually reached this level. After everyone came back to their senses, they immediately noticed something unusual. Lynn flew here. The meaning of this is completely different. When a magician reaches 5 stars, he can merge the magic star tracks in his body and gradually merge them into a star map. At this step, the magician can float in the air for a short time. But if he wants to fly in the air like Lynn did before, he must at least reach the level of a 6-star magician. Doesn't this mean that Lynn is already at least a 6-star magician? How is this possible? Everyone on the mainland knows that Lynn just turned 16 a few months ago and came to Saint Laurent Magic Academy to become a disciple of the God of Magic. It was also from this time that Lynn began to learn magic. But how long has it been? He has already become a 6-star magician. Such magic progress, such talent for practice. Hiss. Everyone couldn't help but take a breath. They simply couldn't believe their eyes, but the facts were in front of them, and they couldn't help but not believe it. Looking at His Highness Lynn flying in the air, think about yourself. Laying the foundation since childhood, and then sent to Saint Laurent, it took several years to finally enter the realm of 2-star and 3-star magicians. He thought he was a magic genius and was very proud of it. But now compared with His Highness Lynn, it's really one in heaven and one on earth. However, what shocked them even more was yet to come. At this time, one of the examiners, the old man from the Holy Land, saw Lynn coming, nodded to him, and then said loudly, "In this experience, in addition to the 3 of us serving as the examiners, His Highness Lynn will be the deputy examiner and participate. His Highness Lynn has the right to assess, and will score the students participating in this assessment experience. The scoring and evaluation have the same effect as our evaluation." As he said this, the whole audience was in an uproar again. His Highness Lin actually served as the deputy examiner. Everyone was shocked. They thought that His Highness Lin came here to participate in the assessment. With his strength of at least a 6-star wizard, he would definitely be able to win the first place in this assessment. Many students who wanted to compete for the first place had already shifted their goals in a depressed mood and planned to strive for the second place. But who knew? His Highness Lin actually came to serve as an examiner. In this way, there is no need to worry about the first place being occupied by His Highness Lin. But no one was happy. They entered school together, the same age. They were still students, taking tests. But His Highness Lin had become the examiner of Saint Laurent Magic Academy, scoring and evaluating them. Such a gap. Everyone felt a strong sense of frustration. Compared with His Highness Lin, they were like frogs sitting in a well and looking at the sky. But think about it again. Although they were the best of the younger generation, praised as geniuses and elites. But how could they be compared with His Highness Lin? When His Highness Lin was born, purple air came from the east for 3,000 miles, and holy light baptized him. Even the god of law was startled and gave him the evaluation of, born to know, born to be a god. And they still want to compare with him in their hearts. This is really arrogant. With their pitiful fluorescence of rotten grass, they can compare with the brilliance of the bright moon of His Highness Lin. How ridiculous is this? And how mediocre is it? Many people shook their heads secretly and gave up the unrealistic dream in their hearts. Compared with these young magicians who have self-knowledge, there are still a small number of people who clenched their fists unwillingly. Hansen stood in the crowd, clenched his fists, widened his eyes, and stared at the figure in the sky. There seemed to be no fluctuations on his face. But in fact, in his heart, a storm had already been set off. Why is this happening? Why is this happening? He thought that if he had the system, he would be able to rise strongly and leave behind all the people he had to look up to in the past. In fact, during the time he got the system, he did it. So, he set his sights higher. He aimed at Lin. He wanted to defeat Lin and leave him behind. So he trained like crazy and killed monsters in order to improve his strength as soon as possible. He thought that after becoming a 4-star magician, the gap between him and Lin was gradually narrowing. But at this moment, he found out. He was wrong. Although he got the system, the gap between him and Lin did not narrow at all. On the contrary, it gradually widened with the retirement of time. He was only a 4-star magician, while Lin was already a 6-star magician. It seemed that there was only a 2-star gap. But the level of magicians, each star, is as huge as a chasm. Now even if I have the system, I am not qualified to compete with Lin on the same stage. If this goes on, when can I defeat Lin? He felt an incomparable sense of frustration in his heart. At this time, he was depressed. He was almost losing his self-confidence. However, at this moment, the system in his mind suddenly made a clear sound. Then, a coolness rose from the bottom of his heart and rushed straight to the top of his head. Hansen suddenly shuddered and suddenly woke up. A trace of fear appeared on his face. Just now, I actually developed a demon in my heart because of Lin's strength. If it weren't for the system helping me, I'm afraid I would be completely sunk. From now on, Lin will become my nightmare. When facing him, I will never be able to raise the slightest desire to fight. Fortunately, I woke up at the critical moment. He wiped the cold sweat from his forehead, and then cast his eyes on Lin again. Even if you are strong, so what? I have the help of the system, even if I am not your opponent for the time being. But there is still a long way to go. Sooner or later, I will catch up and leave you far behind. Wait, at this moment, Hansen secretly made up his mind. He can replace him. Let's go. When all the people arrived, the examiner did not say anything nonsense. He gave an order and led all the students to set off. The location of this assessment is the Dark Forest. The Dark Forest is a famous monster forest in the southern end of the empire. There are many monsters gathered in it, including level 8 and level 9. However, these powerful monsters have been cleared after the Saint Laurent Magic Academy selected it as the location for this assessment. With 1 month left before the assessment, the instructors went there many times and carefully combed the place several times to ensure that there were no high-level monsters lurking here. In addition, it is worth mentioning that the Dark Forest is divided into 20 areas by the Saint Laurent Magic Academy, and each instructor is responsible for the safety of one area. All students will take the assessment test in these 20 areas. The Dark Forest is thousands of miles away from the academy. If these students rely on walking, it will take a lot of time, so the academy specially dispatched 20 magic flying boats to transport them there. A distance of thousands of miles, even a magic flying boat, takes half a day. Very soon, the magic flying boat rose up, and the magic array on the boat flashed, which could block the strong wind when flying in the air. All the students had boarded the flying boat. At this time, a magician came forward and whispered to Lynn and the 3 examiners of the saint level. The 3 saints did not respond immediately, but looked at Lynn first. Lynn and the others meant it, so he nodded. After getting the response, the saint elder said, "You can set off." Yes, the magician arched his hands and shouted, "Set sail, get ready to set off." With an order, on the magic flying boat, more than 10 magic array masters who controlled the flight responded, and their voices shook the sky. The next moment, the sails slowly rose. When it rose to the top, the sails swelled and stretched, and the whole flying boat also trembled slightly. The next moment, the whole flying boat suddenly moved and soared up. The speed was slow at first, and then gradually accelerated. At the end, the speed was already as fast as lightning. The huge flying boat pierced through the clouds, tore through the strong wind, and flew at a high speed. Heading towards the Dark Forest, the flying boat broke through the clouds all the way and soon crossed thousands of mountains and thousands of streams. Many students lay on the side of the boat, looking at the scenery below. As most of them were young magicians of 2 or 3 stars, they did not have the ability to fly in the air. Therefore, it was the first time for them to stand on a high place and look down. Seeing that the mountains, rivers and lakes in their daily lives were completely different in their eyes at this moment. Especially when looking at them from the ground, the huge mountains and rivers were just as small as a fist in their eyes at this moment, which was a different flavor. For a while, many students were shouting and extremely surprised. However, Lynn had seen this kind of scenery many times in his previous life, so it was not strange. Instead, he held a magic book in the flying boat and read it quietly. It happened to be morning at this time. At that time, the sun was rising, and thousands of golden lights fell, shining on Lynn. The black robe on his body was bathed in endless light, as if covered with a layer of divine light, reflecting a dazzling light that was difficult to look at directly. Many students felt something at this moment, and subconsciously cast their eyes on Lynn. Just saw this scene. For a moment, everyone was attracted and completely stunned. But Lynn didn't care about the eyes of the outside world and continued to watch. What he was reading was still the books related to totems. As time went on, although Lynn was still at the level of a 7-star great magician, such terrifying magic elements poured into his body every day, which also made his cultivation level rapidly improve. Now, it is not far from the 8-star magician. As for the research on totems, Lynn has already had some experience in his mind. According to the current progress, when Lynn reaches the 9-star great magician, he may be able to study his own totem and explain it directly to the holy level. According to Lynn's estimation, it will not take long to do this. Just when Lynn was reading, 3 holy magicians came and took the initiative to greet Lynn. "Your Highness Lynn, I am sorry for disturbing you by coming here," the old man in the lead said with a gentle expression and a smile. Looking at the outside world, the holy magicians are all top-notch masters. Even the lords of the principalities are not taken seriously by them. But at this time, in front of Lynn, they are so gentle. Even the words seem to be quite flattering. Although Lynn frowned slightly when he was disturbed from reading, he didn't hit the smiling people. Lynn still relaxed his brows, nodded and said, "You are welcome. Please take a seat." Leading the 3 people to sit down, Lynn said, "I wonder why you 3 are here." "I am sorry to bother you, Your Highness, because of this assessment," said the old man. Hearing this, Lynn immediately said, "I am a cold person and don't like to interfere in the secular world. Therefore, although I am the deputy examiner for this assessment, I will not directly interfere in the students' scoring and assessment. All matters will be decided by you 3. After saying this, the 3 did not show any surprise. After all, before the list was announced, they already knew that Lynn would participate. They also knew that the reason why Lynn became the deputy examiner was mainly because of his teacher, the God of Law. Because they were worried that Lynn would be stupid from reading books, they wanted him to come out for a breath, so they threw him here. However, although the three knew it, after all, Lynn's identity was not ordinary, and it could not be judged by common sense, so they still had to come here to explain it. In that case, thank you very much, Your Highness. The old man was very humble. After all, although he was a Saint Domain magician, his status was still not good enough in front of Lynn. The Holy Empire was the most powerful country on the continent. There were many powerful people under his command. There were many Saint Domain magicians in the Royal Magic Academy and many Saint Domain knights in the Royal Knight Academy. And as the prince most favored by His Majesty, Lynn naturally had many Saint Domain strongmen to drive him. He was just a Saint Domain who was not even at the level of a forbidden spell mage, so he was not qualified to show off in front of Lynn. The two sides talked for a while. At this time, the old man saw the magic book in Lynn's hand and asked in surprise, Your Highness has read books related to the field? Yes, Lynn nodded. I also have some experience in constructing totems. Why not exchange some ideas? The old man wanted to make friends, so he said with a smile. Hearing this, Lynn was also very interested. On weekdays, Lynn read books and studied by himself. His teacher, Vino, the God of Law, often left him alone, and Lynn couldn't find anyone to communicate with. Now that the old man said this, he naturally wanted it. After all, the experience of a saint is there. Lynn was interested, and the three old men also wanted to make friends, so they began to communicate happily. The Holy Domain level is a brand new world. Although it is only a thin line away from the 9-star grade magician, there is a world of difference. But at the Holy Domain level, flying in the sky and hiding in the ground is just common, blocking the river is also a piece of cake, traveling is followed by the laws of heaven and earth, and sitting in meditation is surrounded by hundreds of miles of magic elements. The so-called Holy Domain is the beginning of the sacred domain. Although still in the human world, it is already similar to the immortals on land, like a sage. Any strong man who enters the Holy Domain has abundant knowledge and a deep understanding of heaven and earth. Communicating with such people will naturally gain a lot. Even Lynn, who communicated with the three Holy Domain magicians, also thought that he had gained a lot. There are many magic beasts on the sacred continent. There are powerful magic beasts on the ground, and naturally there are powerful magic beasts in the sky. But their 20 magic flying boats have 20 powerful magicians, plus 3 Holy Domain formers sitting in, and they are always emitting a powerful aura. Naturally, there are no blind magic beasts to make trouble. Everyone thought that the journey would be very smooth. However, the reason why accidents are called accidents is because they are unimaginable. No, after the flying boat had traveled for a while, an accident happened. Just as Lynn and the 3 Saint Domain masters were communicating, they suddenly felt the flying boat shake violently, and then there were bursts of exclamations from outside. What happened? Lynn frowned slightly. The old man sitting opposite, the Saint Domain magician named Bellamy Upton, also immediately asked outside. Not long after, the helmsman of the flying boat came in, saluted the 4 people first, and then said, Your Highness Lynn, 3 adults, our flying boat has encountered some minor troubles. During this communication, Lynn also knew the names of these 3 people. The old man was named Bellamy Upton, the middle-aged woman was called Esther, and the other middle-aged male Saint Domain magician was called Nita. All 3 were first-level magicians of the Saint Domain. At this time, the middle-aged female magician Esther asked, What happened? We encountered a thunderstorm. As soon as these words came out, Lynn and Upton looked at each other, and then stood up together. Let's go out and take a look together. The 4 of them walked out of the house side by side. As soon as they went out, they saw 20 flying boats all hovering in the air. All the students looked up and looked at the distance ahead with shock on their faces. Following everyone's gaze, Lynn also looked up, and when he saw it, he was speechless. What a scene! Looking at the magnificent scene in the distance, Lynn, who had seen big scenes in his past and present lives, couldn't help shrinking his pupils at this moment. But there were dark clouds in front of him, covering a radius of hundreds of miles. Purple lightning crisscrossed in it, and heavy rain poured down between the howling winds, like a raging storm, ravaging the surrounding world. At this time, the flying boat was at the edge of the dark clouds. The thunder seemed unwilling to let go and came with lightning. The thunder was about to fall on the flying boat. Before it arrived, the terrifying power of the thunder was already coming. Under this dazzling lightning, in front of this devastating power, everyone's heart trembled unconsciously. This is the power of heaven and earth. Under such a mighty power, being here, the indescribable insignificance after facing the thunder is like being in an endless wilderness. As far as the eye can see, the world above and below, only oneself is alone. Even the strong men of the holy domain, in the face of such a mighty power, subconsciously feel their own insignificance. Such thunder, don't we need to avoid it? This thought emerged in Lynn's mind, so he unconsciously moved his eyes to Upton and the other two. However, the three holy domain mages were standing on the deck, without any worries, as if they didn't care about the power of the thunder at all. In fact, it was exactly like this. This overwhelming thunder and lightning, which was powerful enough to kill the strong men of the holy domain, was annihilated silently after falling on the flying boat. Yes, there was no earth-shattering explosion, just a silent annihilation. Not disappearance, but annihilation. All the purple lightning, when it fell on the flying boat, was torn apart and absorbed by the sail on top. It was at this time that Lynn discovered that the sail on this magic flying boat was also engraved with countless magic arrays. Just by looking at the complicated magic array patterns, you can know that this sail must be extraordinary. No, this is just a part. Lynn suddenly shook his head. This sail is indeed an extremely terrifying treasure, but it is only a part of this magic flying boat. In other words, this magic flying boat is a whole magic weapon, and its power is naturally more terrifying. Looking at the thunder flashing unwillingly, trying to destroy the flying boat, but in the end it was torn apart by the sail, and then gradually dimmed, Lynn thought secretly. Your Highness, don't worry. Just as Lynn was watching the thunder, Upton turned his head and said to Lynn, this magic flying boat was created by the joint efforts of many formation masters of the Saint Laurent Magic Academy and the Goblin Forging Masters. It is created by combining the essence of the most advanced forging techniques of the Holy Continent. On the flying boat, countless magic runes are engraved. It uses the sun and stars as its energy, can cross the void, and shuttle through the strong wind. It can be said to have unparalleled defense and infinite power. Upton's tone was very plain, but there was a strong sense of pride in his words. With his strength at the level of the holy domain, he still gave an 8-word comment when facing this flying boat. Unparalleled defense, infinite power. So, this magic flying boat must be something extraordinary. Now, he has indeed seen the defense. This terrifying power of heaven and earth cannot pose any threat to the flying boat, and it really deserves the title of unparalleled defense. As for the infinite power, what is it like? Lynn is very curious. In midair, just as Lynn was curious, the sun-flying boat, which had absorbed some lightning energy, also slowly retreated, away from the dark clouds, and then stopped in midair. The two faced each other from a distance. From the flying boat, you can clearly see the dark clouds rolling and crisscrossing, with heavy rain brewing, and purple thunder fans raging and interlacing. If you are not able to fly and enter the Kingming, you will never see such a strange phenomenon in your life. It's really spectacular. On the flying boat, many students who saw this scene murmured subconsciously. Lynn nodded unconsciously. It was also the first time he saw the scene of facing the thunderclouds with his own eyes. The scene was indeed spectacular. Looking around, I saw the dark clouds rolling in front of me, covering an area of hundreds of miles. Thunder and lightning flashed, like snakes and pythons interlacing. In the center of the dark clouds, there was heavy rain pouring down and strong winds blowing. Although everyone was standing in the protection of the magic flying boat, they could still feel the horror of the strong wind. This was not an effect on the body, but on the soul. The trembling from the soul. The power of heaven and earth was in front of us. So the rain actually fell like this. Lynn did not hide the shock on his face. He did not expect that the rainstorm covering the earth and the universe on the ground was only tilted in the center of the dark clouds. It took a long time for Lynn to come back to his senses. Looking at Upton, who was standing beside him with his hands behind his back and was not nervous at all, Lynn couldn't help asking, "Don't we need to go around it?" Upton shook his head and pointed to the front and said, "After the thundercloud, less than 1,000 miles away is the dark forest. If we go around it, it's not impossible, but it will just waste some time and walk more distance." Hearing this, Lynn thought Upton would decide to go around it, but who knew that when he said this, he suddenly changed his tone. There's no need for that." At this point, Upton looked at Lynn and smiled. "Your Highness, the magic flying boat absorbed a lot of lightning energy before, so the stored energy is almost saturated. Why not take this opportunity to release it and disperse the thundercloud?" Disperse the thundercloud with a radius of 100 miles. Listening to Zhang Wenguang's words, even Lynn couldn't help but be shocked. Not to mention that the flying boat is as small as an ant compared to the thundercloud. Just to say that such a terrifying thundercloud, how terrifying power would it take to disperse it? In his eyes, even the Holy Land can hardly do it. Just with this flying boat, can it really work? Just when Lynn was confused, Upton had already walked to the front of the flying boat deck. He didn't see any movement, just a touch of his hand, and a cylindrical cannon barrel suddenly stretched out from the deck of the flying boat. From a distance, it looked like the horn of a ship. Crackle. When the cannon barrel appeared, crackle sounds followed. This was because the absorbed lightning could no longer be restrained and was about to release its power. At this time, the wind suddenly appeared. This was the thunder wind caused by the appearance of thunder. Lightning and thunder began to flash over the entire flying boat, and the thunder wind blew, blowing up the robes of everyone on the deck. Many students suddenly faced such thunder wind, and many 2-star magicians felt weak all over and could not stand steadily. Only 3-star magicians could barely support themselves by holding the railing. But even so, it was still difficult to open their eyes under such dazzling lightning. For a while, only 3 Holy Domain magicians and Lynn could safely touch the entire flying boat. The thunder wind lifted the corners of his clothes, but could not get close to Lynn. "Your Highness, let me show you today. The reason why our Holy Empire has stood on the continent for countless years and eventually became the strongest country on the continent, even the Holy See can only be forced to live in a corner, and the reason why our Saint Laurent School of Magic has become the most powerful school of magic on the continent, its foundation lies in this." At the bow of the flying boat, Upton's robe was blown by the wind, and the hair on his head fluttered with the thunder and wind. But he saw that he put one hand behind his back, and the other hand suddenly pressed down when the voice fell. Boom! In the barrel, lightning flashed, and a thick lightning column rushed out and hit the thundercloud head-on. The thundercloud that seemed to destroy the world, with endless power, covering hundreds of miles, actually trembled under this blow. The next moment, boom! The sky full of thunder exploded, like a loud noise of the creation of the world. Between heaven and earth, there was a piece of white light. Everyone felt that everything in front of them disappeared, leaving only this infinite light and infinite white, filling their sight. The wind stopped and the rain stopped. Time and space seemed to freeze at this moment. All the students stared with their eyes wide open, keeping fixed movements, not daring to move, and not being able to move. They just stood there in a stalemate. In the moment of silence, Lynn walked slowly forward and walked towards the front of Class A. When he successfully walked to the front of Class A, parallel to Upton, and looked forward. This seemed to be a signal. The drama specially prepared for Lynn just reached the top of the peak. The next moment, the dark clouds gathered and expanded, and in just a moment, they dispersed completely. Under this blow, it seemed that the clouds and fog had dissipated, just like the sky cleared after the rain, and the thunderclouds surrounding hundreds of miles disappeared. In the distance, a colorful rainbow hung from the horizon. Like a golden bridge. At the other end of the bridge, the misty clouds circled for 3,000 miles, with towering mountains, hundreds of rivers and lakes, many towns, and people gathered. Further away, a huge mountain range stretching for thousands of miles suddenly rises up, reaching into the sky. The forest is deep and dense, and wild beasts are roaring. It is the dark forest. Ahead, wherever Lynn saw, Upton's eyes were fixed on it. There were mountains and rivers dividing the plains, fertile fields and paths, grains planted everywhere, prosperous towns and countless pedestrians. And farther away, surrounded by people, in the mountains, there was a thin mist, the morning sun shone on it, and the strange light flew, as if the splendor of the sunset and the colorful aurora were all integrated into this morning sun. And under the mountains, on the plains and rivers, under the thin clouds and mist, there was nothing, only the skylight and cloud shadows wandering together. This is the dark forest. Finally here, after arriving at the edge of the dark forest, the flying boat slowly landed. Soon, it landed safely on the periphery of the mountain range. Many students began to get off the boat one after another. At the same time, Upton also stood up to speak. He did not make any long speeches, but directly said, "During this outing, you need to keep in mind the rules of the academy. Students need to help each other and not kill each other. At that time, the instructors will report everyone's every move truthfully. Once you find that a student is killing each other, you will be immediately abolished and expelled from the academy. I hope you will remember it." This was said sternly and solemnly. Although it is a cliché, all the students are very cautious, and they all nodded in agreement. No one dares not to care. The Saint Laurent School of Magic has an outing test project every year, and it has never stopped for so many years. In these long years, naturally some people want to attack their opponents in the test. They think they are smart and do it secretly, but they don't know that the instructors of the academy will find clues almost every time. Although it is an outing test, casualties are inevitable. But student casualties are a big deal. Once a student is found dead or injured, the instructor will immediately launch a special investigation, and all the students around the student will be called in for questioning. Polygraph potion, soul search in the sea of consciousness. Verify by various means, to prevent classmates from killing each other. In the long history of Saint Laurent School of Magic, there are many powerful people, and many means are countless, no one can escape the eyes of the law. Once the murderer who killed the classmates is found, the end is extremely miserable. At the least, the cultivation is abolished and expelled from the school. At the worst, it is killed on the spot. No matter who it is, what their background is, they will be merciless. Just because this is the bottom line. Since the establishment of Saint Laurent School of Magic, it has always adhered to and never broken the bottom line for countless years. Do you understand? Upton's stern voice exploded like thunder. Spread throughout the mountains, hidden in that seemingly old body is a huge energy that can move mountains and seas. Listening to this thunderous sound, countless adventure groups in the entire dark forest changed color at this moment, and subconsciously cast their eyes outside the mountain. This is a powerful saint. Has the trial of Saint Laurent School of Magic begun? They are here. They were shocked. A month ago, Saint Laurent's mentor had come to clear the area, so many people knew that Saint Laurent's trial would be held here this year. And at this moment, hearing this voice, they immediately thought of this. While being shocked by the powerful strength of this saint, many people who came to take risks also immediately warned their companions. Students from Saint Laurent School of Magic will be tested here, don't get into conflict with them. The mentors of the school will definitely accompany and protect you, don't provoke them. Don't take the initiative to attack these students. They all understood that the voice of this Saint Domain strongman spread throughout the mountains just to deter. Our Saint Laurent students are here for the assessment, don't cause trouble. In fact, the effect is also very obvious. Some of these unruly adventure groups immediately restrained themselves a lot. Some hurriedly left the dark mountains. At this time, on the outskirts of the mountains. Got it. Thousands of students responded in unison, and their voices were connected, as if even the clouds in the sky could be disturbed. Okay. Upton said without any nonsense, his eyelids half drooped and his lips opened, saying, "This training time is 1 month, now, the assessment officially begins." After that, he and the other 2 Saint Domain formers and Lynn rose into the air. The 20 instructors led a team of students into the mountains one after another. As the students entered the mountains one after another, thousands of students began to move freely. Some went together, and some acted alone. The dark forest is very large, occupying 1,000 miles, enough for thousands of young magicians to move around in it. As for the 20 instructors who were responsible for invigilation and security, they rose into the air, observing the surrounding environment and the dynamics of each student. The 3 instructors were also observing the performance of each student. If they found that the students performed well, they would quietly write temporary comments on the list of students. Everyone was busy. Compared with them, Lynn was much more relaxed. Gao Zuo was in the clouds, reading a book lazily, with an elegant posture and a noble atmosphere. As for the dark forest below and the students who were undergoing the trial, he didn't even look at them. He was really tired of seeing this old demon's routine. Instead of paying attention all the time, it would be better to read the magic book, and then wait for the so-called Son of Destiny to jump out, and then deprive him of the system. Yes, as early as when he was still in the academy, he had already found the lucky one in the crowd. In connection with the rumors about Hansen, he could easily determine that Hansen was another Son of Destiny, carrying the system. But Lynn didn't act immediately, but waited for him to jump out by himself. After all, it is difficult to take action under the watchful eyes of the public, and only by coming to the dark forest can you find an opportunity. As for what will happen in the dark forest, Lynn doesn't need to think about it, and dozens of different routines pop up in his mind. According to Lynn's speculation, the next step is nothing more than the protagonist getting some rare treasures in the dark forest and then growing up quickly. There will inevitably be some accidents. For example, a powerful monster suddenly appears, causing the assessment to go out of control, and the instructors are too late to rescue everyone. The protagonist is in crisis and then separated from the crowd. To be honest, if the protagonist does not separate from the crowd, how can he find the rare treasures? This is still a normal routine. In a more cliched way, maybe a beautiful and cold female classmate also disappeared, and then accidentally walked with the protagonist, and as a result, the two formed a deep friendship in this crisis. The protagonist melted the heart of the cold female classmate with his personal charm. A more subtle one is that the two did not get together immediately, but kept a special attention to each other. A slightly more vulgar one, maybe God will create conditions for the protagonist and the cold female classmate to have a fait accompli. It's nothing more than these plots. It's so boring. Shaking his head and muttering softly, Lynn lowered his head and cast his eyes on the book. The dark forest is vast and has many monsters. Although it contains dangers, it also contains many opportunities. As the assessment progresses, many students have gained a lot in this trial. Some accidentally encounter rare treasures of heaven and earth, which are worth a lot of money. Some obtain precious elixirs, and after taking them, their strength is further improved. At the same time, as the experience progresses, many students have also shown their talents. In addition to those who were already famous figures in the academy, they have shown extraordinary talents in the trial at this time. There are also some unknown people who have soared to the sky in this trial. Soon, more than half a month passed in the blink of an eye. As the assessment gradually came to an end, many students felt that they had passed, so they began to prepare to go out with their spoils. Of course, some students were brave and diligent, and continued to move towards the depths of the mountains with various ideas. Deep in the dense forest, suddenly, a bare area appeared, forming a sharp contrast with the lush dense forests around. This is a dead place. I don't know when it started, but this place is full of miasma, many creatures died, and any plants and trees can hardly survive here. Many monsters don't want to live here. Only poisonous insects can survive here. Such a unique environment also makes many people wonder if there is some kind of treasure inside. Those who go in with such thoughts either get nothing or die strangely inside. Over time, even the insurance groups on the mainland who are crazy about gold coins dare not approach. Whenever they meet, they will avoid it from a distance. However, at this moment, in this deadly place where Shangming Yuan spreads far and wide, there are 5 people who are moving forward vigilantly. These 5 people, 3 men and 2 women, all wear the clothes of Saint Laurent Magic Academy. Obviously, it is the academy for this assessment. At this time, there is only one road under their feet, and the roadside is full of burnt black wood, most of which have only branches but no leaves, but surge with a different kind of vitality. The 5 people walked on the road, trying their best to spread their spiritual awareness. Occasionally, they could see 1 or 2 poisonous insects hiding in the dark, coldly watching them, the intruders. The dense forest was quiet, without any sound. As the 5 people walked, they also tried to lighten their steps and observe their surroundings vigilantly. Hansen, are we really going to keep going? In the team, the thin magician standing in the front tightly grasped the staff in his hand, looked at the surrounding environment, couldn't help swallowing, and said, I don't know why, I always feel that this place is very weird. These 5 people are the lucky one, Hansen's small team. After hearing the words of the thin magician, another bearded magician glared. You've already come in, why are you still talking about this? But speaking of it, Hansen, are you sure this road is correct? I don't know why, I also feel gloomy, and always feel that something bad will happen. Hearing the two people's words, Hansen looked around and said, Don't worry, this road is correct. The calm tone made the four companions around him gradually calm down. But none of them knew. Although Hansen seemed calm when he spoke, he was actually nervous in his eyes. System, are you sure there is really a chance to continue moving forward? Hansen couldn't help asking in his heart. Please rest assured, this road is specially selected by the system, and it is the safest road. As long as the host follows the method given by the system, there will be absolutely no problem. The system replied coldly. Hearing the system's reply, Hansen was a little more at ease. In fact, Hansen took a great risk to go here this time. His system not only allows him to gain experience by killing monsters and magicians, so as to strengthen his strength and cultivation. It can also give him navigation. It is a bit like radar and satellite. But the difference is that the role of the system is not just this. It can also infer the most suitable combat method and problem-solving ideas for the host according to the environment and various data. Just like now, Hansen got a treasure map by chance during his training in the dark forest. After he identified it, he found that the location of the treasure map was actually in this dead land. If it were the previous Hansen, who was mainly seeking stability, he would definitely not come here in such a hurry. It was just that perhaps he was stimulated by Lynn's cultivation, and Hansen was determined to come to explore the secret. He used his understanding of the dark forest and the information given on the treasure map to let the system analyze the most suitable treasure route. Then he brought his team here. According to the record on the treasure map, it is a precious fire attribute fruit. After taking it, it can improve the affinity of fire attribute magic and even increase magic cultivation. If I can take it, my strength will definitely be improved. In this way, I can catch up with Lynn one step faster. Thinking of this, Hansen was more certain about his choice. Continue to move forward. After walking for about half an hour again, although there was no dense forest in front of him, for some reason, it became darker and darker. At the same time, a rotten smell filled the air, and groups of poisonous insects were buzzing. Some predators hiding in the dark began to keep an eye on the 5 living humans. Falling on the side of the road, only the skeleton was left, shining with a strange luster under the light. On the roadside, dry trees collapsed and twisted, like hands reaching up to the sky, as if trying to grab something. Lying in the dark corners, huge spiders occasionally laughed, drooling from the corners of their mouths. The murderous aura was spreading and covering here. The cold air became stronger and stronger. Hansen and the other 5 all had goosebumps all over their bodies. Hansen, why do I feel more and more? John couldn't help it and wanted to speak in a low voice. However, before he finished speaking, there was a roar that was suppressed to the extreme, and then a huge buzzing sound suddenly sounded in the silent wasteland. A fierce aura rushed towards them from the front. Not good. There are monsters and poisonous insects coming to attack us. Everyone be alert. The bearded wizard standing in the front suddenly changed his face and said in a hurry. However, almost at the moment he spoke to remind him, a black shadow about 10 feet long suddenly rushed out in front of him. It was a giant tiger with wings on its ribs and a majestic head. At this time, the winged tiger flew over, and its front claws shone with cold light, rushing towards the 5 of them fiercely. Get out of the way! Someone shouted in a hurry, and then John and the bearded wizard standing in the front rolled over on the ground, barely avoiding the attack of the winged tiger. At the same time, Hansen rushed forward quickly, and he shouted in a low voice, and his figure floated out like a breeze, and the staff in his hand suddenly emitted a crystal luster, and his footsteps left a trail of afterimages. Flame curse. Accompanied by a loud shout, a millstone-sized ring of fire suddenly appeared, and the surrounding air became hot. The ring of fire pounced directly on the winged tiger, and there was only a loud bang. The ring of fire was blown to pieces, and the winged tiger also cried and flew backwards. In the air, a smell of burnt fragrance floated out. Looking at the winged tiger again, the originally white hair had turned black at this time. One blow, severely injuring the winged tiger. The winged tiger is a 4th-level magical beast, and it is also the best among the 4th-level magical beasts. In normal times, even a 5-star magician must be cautious. However, Hansen's fire spell, which can be cast by a 3-star magician, actually directly hit the winged tiger. Such power immediately shocked the remaining 4 people. Just when everyone was stunned, 2 black shadows suddenly jumped out from the right and pounced directly on the 2 female magicians. Be careful. At this time, John and the bearded magician, who had just come to their senses, shouted, raised their staffs, and after chanting silently, they directly cast 2 magics to block this attack for the 2 female magicians. Water barrier. Water shield. The water element in the sky became rapidly active, and then appeared out of thin air on the path that the black shadow and the female magician must pass. A barrier made purely of water, with water light flowing on it. The other one, also made of water, but in the shape of a shield. However, both the water barrier and the water shield were broken by the impact of the shadow. The shadow was still rushing towards the direction of the female magician. The 2 female magicians were completely blinded by the sudden attack, and they were stunned and motionless at this moment. They were about to be seriously injured or even lose their lives under the bombardment of the shadow. At this critical moment, a figure flashed by. A huge sword appeared with the wind, and it came out with a clang. As it was swung, it brought a dull sound of breaking through the air. The 2 rushing monsters were swept by the sword at the same time and were blown away like sandbags. The 2 monsters were blown into the air, and suddenly 2 fireballs appeared and hit them. They didn't even have the slightest room to react. Their bodies were directly blown to pieces, and the blood of the debris was completely swallowed by the gorgeous flames. In the blink of an eye, the 2 monsters were burned to ashes without leaving any residue. After killing the 2 monsters, Hansen finally breathed a sigh of relief. Walk to the winged tiger, raise the sword and kill it. With a sound of puff, a head flew out, then rolled to the ground, and gushed out black blood. All this is said to be slow, but in fact it only took a moment. After Hansen finished all this, the remaining 4 people came back to their senses. Hansen, how did you learn the ability of a knight? At this time, the short John looked at the giant sword in Hansen's hand with surprise and asked loudly. Others also cast their eyes over. Just now, Hansen raised the giant sword and swept it across. Although it was just a glimpse, it showed extraordinary strength. Obviously, his knight strength is also good. I just practiced it in my spare time, just as a physical exercise. Hansen did not do much, and put the giant sword back into the storage ring. Hearing Hansen's answer, the 4 people rolled their eyes. Just practicing a little in my spare time, I have such strength, ghosts will believe it. However, they were also discerning people. They knew that Hansen didn't want to say more, so they didn't ask any more questions. However, the 4 of them were full of curiosity about Hansen. Powerful magic talent, and such a strong knight's strength is hidden. Hansen is really a mysterious person. The 2 beautiful female magicians looked at Hansen with their beautiful eyes. There was admiration and worship that could not be concealed in their eyes. Hansen felt this kind of eyes and felt a little complacent in his heart. However, he didn't show it on his face, but pretended to be indifferent, waved his hand and said, "Let's go, let's continue on the road." Hansen's proposal was agreed by everyone. First, they cleaned up the battlefield and took down all the crystal cores of the 3 monsters. Then they restored the formation and continued to move forward. After they killed the 3 monsters cleanly, the eyes that were watching the 5 people in the dark suddenly decreased by more than half. Obviously, these monsters with strong wisdom all understood. These 5 people are not easy to mess with. The journey was much smoother. After continuing to move forward for half an hour, they came to a cliff. At this time, Hansen suddenly stopped and said, "We're here. We're here. This is the treasure address recorded on the treasure map." John looked at the surrounding environment. Except for the cliff in front, it was still a dry dead land. He couldn't help but look puzzled. Isn't the treasure map recorded the essence of fire? Generally, the essence of fire can only be born in volcanoes or lava, but I haven't seen these nearby. Hansen also frowned and looked around. He was about to speak, but suddenly heard a huge roar not far away, and then a faint buzzing sound suddenly resounded. Hearing this sound, Hansen was stunned. He subconsciously stepped forward, came to the edge of the cliff, and looked in the direction of the sound. But when he saw it, his whole face suddenly changed. This This is. At this time, the four companions also came over, looking at the scene below, and they were stunned in place. I couldn't even speak. Chapter 31. What a scene. In front of them, under the cliff, there is a huge plain. The plain is endless, and on the plain, there are many monsters. It is also endless. Monsters, all of them. Why are there so many monsters lurking in the dark forest? What are they trying to do? Beast tide, is the beast tide coming again? Looking at the endless monsters, there are at least hundreds of thousands of them, and there are many powerful monsters whose fierce aura makes them terrified. Including Hansen, everyone was frightened and their legs were weak, and they could hardly stand. They really couldn't imagine why there were so many monsters here. And there are many powerful monsters comparable to the Holy Land. What is this for? System, why are there so many monsters here? What is going on? Hansen looked anxious and asked the system in his heart. But at this time, the system seemed to be completely unexpected and remained silent. Go now. Don't stay. Hansen was decisive. After seeing so many monsters, he decided to leave immediately. As for the treasure map, he didn't have the heart to think about it now. He didn't know why these monsters gathered here. He didn't know why these monsters escaped the search of the college mentors. He only knew that once these monsters rushed out of the dark forest, the whole continent would be shocked. We must go out as soon as possible and report this news to the college mentors. Hansen thought so in his heart. It's not that he has a strong sense of belonging to the college and this continent and wants to save the world. But he knows very well that these monsters are not something he can handle. Once they rush out, the continent will be in chaos. At present, only the Holy Empire and the Saint Laurent Magic Academy have the strength to contain these monsters. Only in this way can he grow up safely. Listening to Hansen's words, the other four people also came back to their senses, held their breath, and carefully evacuated along the original route. Among the hundreds of thousands of magic beasts, many are comparable to the Holy Domain level. They are very powerful and can sense any movement. If they make a noise without paying attention, they will be easily discovered. Therefore, they are all cautious, fearing that they will alarm these magic beasts. But in reality, the more you fear something, the more it will come. A female magician was panicked and accidentally stepped on a dry bone. This bone has existed for many years, and it broke with a click when she stepped on it. Ah! The female magician was suddenly frightened and couldn't help but exclaimed. It was this exclamation that made Hansen's face change suddenly. Oh no! Hearing this exclamation, Hansen immediately realized that something was wrong. Sure enough, ah! A roar suddenly rang out, rushing straight into the universe. And when this roar rang out, first there was a low roar of thousands of beasts, and then boom boom boom, a faint roar came from the ground. At first, it was sparse and weak, then gradually became dense and high-pitched. Later, the earth trembled, and the sound shook the world. Rumble. The ground began to shake violently. All the earth and stone fragments were shaking violently. Not far away, under the cliff, the roars of the monsters came one after another, and it seemed that there was no possibility of interruption. They alarmed the monster group. What are you still standing there for? Run! Although he cursed these two women who were more likely to cause trouble than to do anything, Hansen still shouted loudly with an ugly face when he saw them all standing there. The herd was alarmed, and the entire dark forest would definitely be affected next. They had to reunite with their mentor before being caught up by the herd, otherwise. The end was clear without thinking. Just as they were running for their lives, hundreds of thousands of monsters finally rioted. They rushed from the bottom of the cliff to the top of the mountain, and then rushed to the outside of the dark forest. If you look down from the sky at this moment, you can find that at this moment in the huge dark forest, hundreds of thousands of monsters are like a black torrent, like a sharp sword rushing towards the outside of the mountain range. As they charged, there were more and more monsters joining in from all over the mountain range, like hundreds of rivers flowing into the sea, rolling forward. Rumble. The earth was shaking and trembling. Countless monsters roared to the sky, even the smoke and clouds in the sky were dispersed. In the sky, many flying monsters flapped their wings and soared. They spread their wings, covering the sky and the earth, like a vast and boundless black cloud. When the monsters attacked, in less than half an hour, there were already millions of monsters. In the air near the outer edge of the dark forest. Upton and the other two were discussing with Lynn on the magic flying boat. The four of them talked to each other, explaining their understanding of the field. Logically speaking, Upton and the other two were all senior sanctuary-level magicians. Even if they were communicating with Lynn, it should be the three of them who were talking, and Lynn was listening quietly. But in fact, the three of them often started, and when Lynn felt interested, he would talk about this topic. It is not a fantasy, but a substance. Many understandings of totems, domains and even laws, even Upton and the other two felt brightened and enlightened. Such exchanges naturally satisfied the four people. Just as they were chatting happily, Upton, who was smiling, suddenly froze, and then waved his hand, and a magic sound entered his ears. After listening, Upton's face changed drastically. What happened? The middle-aged sanctuary magician Nita frowned and asked. Lynn also cast his eyes over. Beast tide. Upton looked solemn, and his voice trembled as he said, "A beast tide has occurred in the dark forest, a huge beast tide of millions." What? This is impossible. After saying this, Esther and Nita exclaimed almost at the same time. They all had unbelievable expressions on their faces, and they subconsciously wanted to refute. The dark forest has been inspected so many times by the instructors of the academy, how could those monsters hide there? What's more, the dark forest is so far away from the monster mountain range, it is impossible for so many monsters to gather there, it is absolutely impossible. They simply don't believe it. But that's the fact. Upton stood up and walked quickly outside. I will report to the academy immediately and ask the academy to send reinforcements. In addition, our students are still in the forest and have not come out. We must rescue them. And, at this point, Upton turned around and looked at Lynn, saying, Your Highness Lynn, the monster tide has broken out and the situation is very dangerous. Although I know that as Your Highness, you must not personally get involved in danger. But there are still thousands of students in the forest at this time. We are far from having enough manpower. Please help rescue them while ensuring your own safety. Listening to this, Lynn stood up, with a calm face and a calm expression. As a member of the Saint Laurent Magic Academy, Lynn has no choice but to do it. Warcraft, why are there so many of them? In the depths of a dense forest somewhere in the dark forest, several students from the Saint Laurent School of Magic looked at the rolling herd of Warcraft in front of them with pale faces, and they shouted one by one. They had seen a piece of spiritual grass and were about to pick it. But they didn't expect that as soon as they walked over, before they had time to do anything, they felt the ground shaking under them. Then, they saw a group of Warcraft rushing over. There were at least hundreds of Warcraft, and the lowest was a level of Warcraft comparable to a 2-star magician. If they rushed over, how could they survive? Are we going to die here? Several students looked pale and felt as if they had died. They were all 5th-year students in the academy, and each of them was a 3-star magician. According to their idea, after graduating this year, they would return to their homes, make a name for themselves, inherit a title, and then slowly accumulate resources to improve their strength. In time, they might be able to step into the realm of a great magician or even a wizard. But now, seeing the monsters rushing over and about to drown them, everyone closed their eyes. They had completely given up resistance. However, after waiting for a long time, they still did not feel the monsters trampling on them. They even felt that their bodies were floating, as if their souls were ascending to heaven. Could it be, I am dead and now I am entering heaven? They thought so and subconsciously opened their eyes. All they saw was the sky. Many students in black robes looked at them strangely. What are you in a daze? Don't think about it, you are still alive. It was His Highness Lynn who saved you. At this time, a college student who was watching saw that they were still in a daze and couldn't help but speak. This sentence finally brought them back to reality. Looking around, they found themselves on a flying boat. It was the magic flying boat of the Saint Laurent Magic Academy. And next to them, His Highness Lynn had just retracted his palm. We are not dead. After seeing their situation clearly, the feeling of relief for surviving the disaster suddenly made them feel endless joy in their hearts. They hugged each other and vented their emotions. However, fortunately, they did not forget the business. After venting their emotions, they immediately saluted Lynn. Thank you, Your Highness, for your help. If it weren't for Your Highness, we would really be finished. No need to be polite. Lin glanced at them with indifferent eyes. Then his eyes shifted and continued to focus on the land below. Although Lin's attitude was very cold, the students who survived the disaster did not have any dissatisfaction, but showed a normal expression. That's right. What kind of person is His Highness Lin? It is their blessing to be able to rescue them. How can they expect His Highness to smile at them? Ignoring these lucky people who just survived the dead, Lin glanced at the flying boat and found that there were already hundreds of students rescued by him. Almost the entire flying boat was full. Then he looked at the endless tide of monsters below, and even the large black cloud in the distant sky. Lin thought about it and turned the flying boat back. The flying monsters were about to attack, and there was only one 7-star magician like Lin on their flying boat. Facing so many flying monsters, he himself was not afraid. But there were so many students around him. Now that they were finally rescued, it would be troublesome if they were injured. What's more, the reinforcements from the academy will arrive soon, and Lin doesn't need to take risks here. Soon, the flying boat arrived at the outskirts of the dark forest. It happened to meet the reinforcements sent by the academy and the empire. It is worth mentioning that among the reinforcements, Albert also came on a dragon. Lin handed the students over to the reinforcements, and the rest had nothing to do with him. Your Highness, are you not injured? Albert came over with a nervous look on his face, and when he saw Lin, he immediately asked with concern. It's okay. Lin waved his hand and said. Hearing Lin say this, Albert also breathed a sigh of relief. God knows how nervous he was when he heard about the beast tide in the dark forest in the academy. He rode the dragon as soon as possible, not daring to delay at all. Fortunately, His Highness was not in danger. Otherwise, Albert really didn't know how he would face His Majesty. Next, the Academy's tutors and the Empire's reinforcements began to rescue the students and curb the spread of the beast tide. Under the emergency rescue, most of the students were rescued without danger. But some students were still lost and could not find their whereabouts. As Lin expected, Hansen was also among the lost people. Thinking of this, Lin couldn't help but sigh in amazement. I have to say, this so-called Son of Destiny is really awesome. In order to make the Son of Destiny grow, God actually created a wave of monsters with a scale of millions in the dark forest, a mountain range that had been cleared many times by the Saint Domain mentors of the Saint Laurent Magic Academy. It was really painstaking. Of course, this wave of monsters is an opportunity for the Son of Destiny. Similarly, it is also an opportunity for Lin. In an underground cave, Hansen and the two female magicians just leaned against each other. They listened to the rolling vibrations coming from their heads. All of them were pale and nervous. After the monster tide broke out, Hansen and his companions ran desperately, but how could they outrun those powerful monsters? Soon, they were caught up. John and the bearded wizard were directly swallowed by the ferocious monsters. When the two of them were submerged by the rolling monsters, not even a splash of water was made. This scene made Hansen and the other two feel desperate while trembling in their hearts. John and the bearded wizard died, and they will follow in their footsteps. Hansen felt very unwilling to die here before he reached the peak and defeated Lin. But what could he do? Seeing the monsters gradually catching up, they would be overwhelmed in the next second. Who knew that at this moment, there was always a way out? They accidentally entered a cave while desperately running away. This cave was very hidden, and the entrance was not vertical, so although the monsters stepped on it, they would not fall directly like them. After being alert for a long time, they felt that there was no more roaring sound above their heads, as if the monster tide had passed, and the three of them relaxed. It was not until this time that Hansen had time to look at the scene in the cave. He was stunned when he saw it. When you are at the end of your rope, there is no way out, but there is another village. I didn't expect. I actually came in by accident. Is this the so-called, surviving a disaster will bring you good fortune in the future? Looking at the surrounding environment, Hansen muttered to himself. A hint of joy gradually appeared on his face. Here. It is the treasure location recorded on the treasure map. Is this the location of the treasure? But there is no fire essence here. One of the two female magicians, Anna, who has blue hair, looked at the cave with doubt. The cave is not big, and you can see it all at a glance. Did we go to the wrong place? Another female magician named Jundi also questioned. No, this is it. Hansen seemed very confident, looking at the whole cave with a light in his eyes. I can be sure that this is the address recorded on the treasure map. The reason why I didn't see the fire essence is because this place is a magic circle. The area where the fire essence is located is underground, and only with the help of the magic circle can we be sent there. Let's look for it quickly and see if we can find this magic circle. After so many years, I hope the magic circle can still work, Hansen said, and immediately walked around the cave. Hearing this, Anna and Jundi also started looking immediately. The cave is not big, and you can see everything at a glance, so they quickly found the teleportation magic circle. On a large stone platform in the cave, they saw many complicated magic array patterns engraved on it. After careful verification, they found that the magic array can still work. Great, the magic array is still effective. We will soon find the essence of fire. Anna and Jundi were overjoyed. Although Hansen did not speak, his eyes showed excitement. They wanted to activate the magic array immediately, but found that energy was needed to activate this magic array. The original inlaid magic crystals had been consumed, but fortunately, they had killed many monsters during their previous training and obtained some magic crystals, which could be used as energy to activate the magic array. Hansen inlaid all the magic crystals, and then the three of them stood in the magic array and used magic power to activate the magic array. Soon, a dazzling light came out from the magic array, surrounding them all. They only felt a blackness in front of their eyes, and then the world spun around. Before they could take a closer look, they suddenly found that the scenery in front of them had changed instantly. What they saw was a piece of fiery red magma. The flowing magma exudes scorching heat. Waves of heat hit us. The air is filled with rich fire elements, which are so active that they can almost be seen with the naked eye. In this case, Hansen only felt a shock of energy, and his originally tired body was slightly better at this moment. He has a magic talent of fire attribute, and in this case, it is like a fish in water. And Anna and Jundi, one is also fire attribute, and the other is also earth attribute, so they don't feel any discomfort here, but feel that the magic elements in their bodies are particularly active. After all, this is underground, filled with endless fire elements and earth elements. This is really my blessed land. Hansen couldn't help but take a deep breath of the hot air, and said intoxicatedly, if I can find the essence of fire, let my magic talent go to a higher level, and then retreat here for a while. In less than half a year, I can be promoted to the level of a great magician. It's just a pity that the food I brought with me is not enough for me to support it for so long. Hansen felt a little sorry. But he didn't care. As long as we find the essence of fire, this trip will be worth it. At worst, we can prepare enough food after we go out and come back. Just as Hansen was thinking this, Anna and Jundi were also looking at the scene in front of them in great shock. All they could see was magma. They had never seen such a scene before. Oh my God, where is this place? It's so spectacular. Anna opened her lips and said in great surprise. Although Jundi didn't say anything, her eyes were also shining. At this time, because the three of them had just been teleported, they were all close together. Hansen could clearly feel the delicate touch of the two people's bodies, and he couldn't help but feel a little proud. This is where the treasure is hidden, the essence of fire is here. Hansen said with a smile. It's an incredible place. It seems that only here can such a rare treasure as the essence of fire be born. Anna came back to her senses from the shock. Feeling her close to Hansen, her pretty face blushed, and she took a step back and said so. Yes. Jundi nodded, but then frowned. If this is underground, then we need to find the essence of fire as soon as possible and leave. After all, we don't have much food on us, and it can only last less than half a month. Don't worry about this. Compared to Jundi, Hansen was much more confident. Since the teleportation array can send us here, there should be a teleportation array to go back. Let's find the essence of fire first, and look for the magic array at the same time. After that, Hansen took the lead in exploring here. Anna and Jundi also nodded. Then, the three began to explore around the magma. At first they were still very vigilant, just wandering around for a while, and did not find other creatures here. They gradually relaxed. However, what made them feel a little anxious was that after a few days, they still did not find the essence of fire. Similarly, they did not even find the magic teleportation array to go back. This made the three of them feel a little bad. But it is gratifying that their strength has improved rapidly in the past few days. Hansen found that the fire element in the magma would always fly to his body actively. The active fire element made his practice progress by leaps and bounds, and he would soon touch the edge of a 5-star magician. He thought that it was his excellent magic talent and the abundant fire element here that led to this phenomenon. So Hansen didn't care. But what he didn't know was that since he stepped into the magma, the system in his mind that seemed like some kind of fragment was also absorbing the energy here. And as the fragments of this system were absorbed, the system was also quietly changing. But Hansen didn't know all this. Steaming hot air filled the valley. Hansen became more and more dazed under the influence of the heat and the rapid improvement of his strength, and it seemed that even his body didn't belong to him anymore. 10 days later. The strength of the three people has made great progress, but the clean water and food stored in their storage rings are not enough, so they can only hurry to find an exit. But the teleportation array they came from has disappeared, and it seems that it can only be stimulated by a special way. Such a closed environment. In addition, they had not found the essence of fire or the way back, which made them a little impatient. At the same time, the active fire element also invisibly increased their impatience. The bad feeling in their hearts became stronger and stronger. They began to get a little crazy and wanted to find a way to trigger the magic circle. And this method finally appeared after they ran out of food. After a week, all the food of the three people was consumed. Originally, they only brought 1 month's worth of food for this training, but most of it was consumed during the training. It was not easy for them to persist until now. The three people searched for a long time along the magma underground, but did not find any food. There was only a kind of shrub growing near the magma, which had red berries the size of eyeballs. This red berry looked rosy and delicious. But neither Hansen nor Jundi and Anna knew it. On weekdays, they just practiced, and even avoided magic knowledge classes, not to mention the magic popularization classes taught in the academy that specialized in identifying animals and plants. Logically, this kind of unfamiliar food with a strange growing environment should not be eaten. But at this time, they had run out of ammunition and food. If they didn't eat it, they would die. As a last resort, Hansen could only make up his mind and try to eat one. What they didn't expect was that this red berry looked delicious and tasted even more delicious, with a sour and sweet taste and some refreshing. And it contained a very rich magical element. After eating, Hansen felt that the magic power in his body had been slightly improved. And then he waited for a while, and there was no abnormal sign, so Hansen understood. This should be a spiritual fruit with extremely high content. After confirming that it was not toxic, Hansen asked Anna and Jundi to eat some. There were not many fruits on a bush, only a few. At the moment when Anna and Jundi ate the fruit at the same time, Hansen suddenly felt that there was some kind of connection, and then he felt a huge heat rising from his body. This heat made him sweat all over. Before Hansen could panic, he saw that Anna and Jundi were all in a haze. Seeing this scene, Hansen was stunned at first, and then a bright light flashed in his mind, and he understood it in an instant. Hansen, Hansen, Anna and Jundi shouted indistinctly, with a gentleness that Hansen could not bear. While talking, the two also wanted Hansen to get close at the same time. Although Hansen was very excited, he pretended to be shocked. Anna, Jundi, what happened to you? Are you poisoned? It's all my fault. I didn't observe carefully beforehand. This is not good. Anna, Jundi, wake up. I am Hansen, don't do this. Sorry, I can't control it. As Anna and Jundi approached, Hansen also half-heartedly did it with them. At the same time, on the other side, Lynn was also looking for Hansen's location. Relying on the system's induction, he kept approaching Hansen, and finally landed in the cave with Albert. The magic circle on the stone in the cave was easily found by Lynn. After careful observation, Lynn found that it was a small teleportation magic circle. The teleportation distance was less than 100 miles. At this moment, the surrounding 100 miles belonged to the range of the dark forest. If it was on the surface, there was no need to spend a lot of effort to practice such a magic circle. According to Lynn's speculation, the target of the magic circle should be underground. Your Highness, do we need to go in? Albert asked. and then said with a little concern, "The underground world is full of dangers, and no one knows what is inside. It's too dangerous. Why don't you wait here and let Albert go down in your place? It's just a level 4 magician. I think he will never escape from my grasp." Lin shook his head. Although he is only a 4th level magician, he is very special. His strength cannot be simply divided. Let's go down together. Don't persuade me. With you by my side, even if there is danger, I believe you can help me block it, Albert. Hearing this, Albert nodded and stopped persuading. He was just Lin's knight, and he had to remember his identity. He could persuade, but he could not decide anything for his master. Since His Highness had made a decision, the only thing he could do as a subordinate was to protect His Highness's safety and complete what His Highness ordered. This is a qualified subordinate. Lin first observed the small magic circle with his magic knowledge, confirmed that the magic circle was not a single item, and also found a way to return, then placed the magic crystal and activated it. However, when returning, Lin quietly made some changes to the magic circle, which changed the way to return. With a flash of light, Lin and Albert disappeared from the cave. When they opened their eyes again, they found themselves in an underground world full of magma. As soon as they arrived here, Lin found that the system was shaking violently. This meant that they were getting closer and closer to Hansen. Obviously, they came to the right place. "Your Highness, the situation here is weird, please be careful." After observing the surrounding environment, Albert drew out his long knife for the first time and became alert. Lin nodded slightly, then followed the instructions of the system and approached Hansen. Just after walking a distance, Lin saw a kind of red bush growing on the shore of the magma lake, with red berries on it. With Lin's rich magical knowledge, he easily recognized the berries when he saw them. Then, a look of surprise appeared on his face. This plot. Lin didn't know how to complain like this. It was exactly as he imagined. It must be said that the will of heaven in this world is really kind to these so-called sons of destiny and protagonists of luck. Not only giving opportunities, but also giving women. He really did everything he could. Lin shook his head, picked some berries, put them in the storage ring, and then continued on his way. After an unknown amount of time, the three slowly woke up. After the initial awkward moment, Anna and Jundi couldn't help but glance at Hansen while putting on their clothes, with a strange look on their faces. As for Hansen, he lowered his head. He was very embarrassed. Seeing the inexplicable look in Anna and Jundi's eyes getting stronger and stronger, Hansen couldn't stand it, so he had to change the subject and said, the magic circle has been activated, let's go back now." Anna and Jundi didn't say anything, just nodded. Compared with before, their attitude became much colder. Hansen also knew that he was in the wrong, so he didn't say much, and could only run around and place the magic crystal. Soon, the magic circle was activated, and the three stood on it, intending to teleport back. When the magic circle was about to send them away, Hansen took a look at the lava lake. Here, he not only failed to find the essence of fire. He also lost his dignity as a man. A flash of light completely enveloped the three of them. With the experience of entering last time, they were familiar with the way this time and closed their eyes. However, after waiting for a long time, they did not feel the fainting feeling when they came in. They subconsciously opened their eyes, but found that there was still a face of fiery red magma in front of them. They did not move at all. What's going on? Why did the magic teleportation array fail? The three of them were stunned in place, with doubts on their faces. And just when they were in doubt, suddenly, an extremely powerful breath filled the air. The three of them were caught off guard and were crushed by this breath. In an instant, they all knelt down. This is the breath of the Holy Land. Could there be a magical beast comparable to the Holy Land hidden in this magma? Hansen's face changed drastically, and he wanted to struggle to get up. But the pressure that swept over was as heavy as a mountain, making him unable to stand up at all, and even raising his head was difficult to do. Even though Hansen gnashed his teeth and bit his lips, bleeding, it was still useless. All three of them knelt on the ground, like ants falling into the dust, in a miserable state. What on earth is going on? Hansen's face was pressed against the rock, blood was flowing from the corner of his mouth, and he roared, trying to see what was going on. And just as he kept roaring, he suddenly heard footsteps not far away. click, 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 one after another. With his hearing, he could easily hear that it was the footsteps of two people. The footsteps in front were neither light nor heavy, neither fast nor slow, and came slowly with a certain rhythm. And the footsteps behind were the initiators of this holy aura. What made Hansen puzzled was that this strong man in the holy domain was following the previous footsteps step by step, looking very respectful. Hansen was horrified. He tried his best to open his eyes wide, trying to see the appearance of the person who came with the corner of his eyes. Even the corners of his eyes were opened by his strength, and 2 lines of blood and tears flowed from his eyes. The pain in his eyes made Hansen want to scream, but at this moment, his throat seemed to be blocked, and he couldn't make any sound. But what was still there was that he could finally see the figure of the person who came. Because of the limitation of the perspective, even if he tried his best to look up, he could only see below the neck. He could only see that the person who came was tall and slender, wearing a black robe. The robe was simple and without much decoration, but when worn on this person, it actually had a gorgeous and restrained feeling. The robe is restrained, but it is gorgeous because of the person. Suddenly, such a thought suddenly emerged in Hansen's mind for no reason. Even though he knew that the person who came was the enemy who attacked them, Hansen couldn't help but feel ashamed in his heart at this moment. This feeling was like he was a mortal in the world, a fluorescent light of rotten grass. And this man in black robes is worthy of being called the bright moon in the sky. He saw this man pointing at him little by little, and then Hansen lost consciousness. However, at the last moment when his consciousness disappeared, Hansen seemed to vaguely hear the man utter a sound, a light huh. ... The people who came were naturally Lynn and Albert. At this moment, Lynn retracted his finger and looked at the 3 people who were in a coma, Hansen to be exact, with a look of surprise on his face. That light huh was indeed uttered from his mouth. Just because he found something very interesting in Hansen. 2 souls in one body. Or, possession. Relying on the system's induction, Lynn was able to find that Hansen had a system fragment in his sea of consciousness. What surprised him was that there was actually a remnant soul in this system fragment. At this moment, the system fragment contained a lot of fire elements, which were nourishing this remnant soul. This is very interesting. At this moment, many interesting plots suddenly popped up in Lynn's mind. The former genius should have risen up, but suddenly fell halfway and became a useless person, suffering from insults. Who would have thought that the reason why he fell halfway was just because the golden finger had not been opened? And just when the former genius suffered from the cold and warmth and was discouraged, the golden finger finally accumulated enough energy to be activated, and the boy sang all the way to glory. Then at the peak, he was suddenly betrayed by his relatives, friends, brothers or bedmates, and his soul traveled through another world. He wanted to find an opportunity to rise again, but he was too seriously injured and his soul could not support him. He fell into a coma after arriving in another world. The golden finger was also obtained by a lucky little magician, who changed his fate and became a legend. Among them, there are many bloody stories such as the lucky magician changing his fate against the will of heaven, slapping the villain boss in the face, returning home in brocade and getting opportunities. In fact, in the early stage of this story, the lucky magician was definitely very lucky. But it is hard to say whether it is lucky or not in the later stage. For example, after the former genius soul awakened, he found that his golden finger was occupied by others, and he found that he had no physical body. And this little magician who occupied his body, because of the help of the system, has a top physical body, qualifications and cultivation. How will this former genius choose? Is it to choose to take over or take over? Perhaps, with the help of the system, Hansen can still compete with this residual soul. But at this moment, from Lynn's point of view, the system in Hansen's body does not regard him as the master. Just borrowing Hansen's body to obtain energy, to absorb energy for the residual soul protected in the system. In other words, from the beginning to the end, Hansen was just a tool man. This can be seen from the fact that Hansen needs to spend a lot of points to exchange for cultivation to improve his strength, while transforming his own qualifications has become much simpler in comparison. You know, it is difficult for even the god of law to transform a person with poor qualifications into a top genius. But if a 1-star magician is promoted to a 9-star magician, it is easy, just need to instill magic. Interesting. Thinking about these plots in his mind, Lynn suddenly became interested. He really wants to know, if Hansen can't get the help of the system, and the residual soul behind the system can't get the help of the system. When he wakes up, what kind of story will happen between the two? Thinking of this, Lynn can't wait to try it out. System, can it merge the system fragments in Hansen's body, but at the same time remove the residual soul in it? Lynn asked softly, with a smile on his lips. He is tired of cliché plots, but likes to see new things. Of course, to fuse system fragments, impurities must be excluded. In the past, impurities were directly annihilated, but it is okay to leave them. This is a trivial matter. Since the host requires, then, as you wish. Who is attacking me? After an unknown amount of time, Hansen finally woke up from his coma. He was breathing heavily, his whole body soaked with sweat. When he opened his eyes, he found himself in the cave, and his whole body was intact. The same was true for Anna and Jundi, who were lying beside him. I'm not dead. He looked at his hands in surprise, with a puzzled look on his face. Before, he clearly remembered that he had encountered a strong man from the Holy Land, and at the same time saw the man in black robe pointing at him. At that moment, he thought he would die. There were still many unwillingness in his heart. But who would have thought that after waking up, he found himself back to the cave from the underground magma world? Could it be that it was just a nightmare I had before? In fact, after activating the teleportation magic circle, I came here smoothly, but because of some accidents in the magic teleportation, I fell into a coma, so I had a nightmare. Hansen fell into deep self-doubt. But, as a 4-star magician, how could he have a nightmare? More importantly, those memories are so clear. The pressure from the Saint Domain strongman is so real. The figure who pointed at him was deeply imprinted in his mind, almost indelible. How could this be just a dream? By the way, system. He suddenly thought of something and wanted to ask the system. But no matter how he called, the system originally hidden in his body did not respond at all at this moment. It was as if it disappeared out of thin air. At this moment, Hansen finally panicked. Since he got the system, he has always answered questions and never kept silent. And now there is only one possibility for such a thing to happen. His system is gone. Either the system has some kind of accident, causing damage or loss of energy and being shut down. Or the system in his body was taken away by the person who attacked him before. And this possibility is very high. But, why did that person know that I have a system? What means did he have to deprive me of the system? And, who is he? Hansen was completely panicked, with uncontrollable fear on his face. Since he got the system, his fate has changed greatly. He was originally unknown, but later became a celebrity in the college. Respected by classmates, praise from mentors, admiration from girls. He thought that his future fate would continue like this, singing all the way and then reaching the peak. Although it was not long since he got the system, he had already gotten used to such a life. But now, the system was taken away. This means that he was beaten back to his original form. How could he not be nervous? How could he not panic? And how could he not be angry? In this situation, he began to worry about his future fate, and he began to complain about himself. Who on earth took away my system? God, why did you give me hope, but then ruthlessly took it away? I hate it. Hansen cursed like crazy in the cave. His movement woke up Anna and Jandy. The two looked at Hansen, who was gentle and never panicked no matter what he faced, but now showed a hideous and twisted face, and they were all terrified. At the same time, they also had a thought in their hearts. Is this the man I like? How can he be worthy of me? Anna and Jundi's hearts changed silently. Because of these changes, their eyes, which were originally full of love, also became a little cold invisibly. And Hansen didn't notice these. He was still complaining and cursing the sky. He was afraid. He was afraid that he would go back to his old days. In fact, he knew very well that although the system was deprived, his qualifications had improved a lot after the system's previous transformation. In addition, he had repeatedly enhanced his magic power and strengthened his physical fitness. So he is now a genius. His conditions are much better than before. If he goes step by step, he may not be able to step into the sacred realm in the future. But it has always been easy to go from frugality to luxury, but it is difficult to go from luxury to frugality. How could he be willing to be ordinary after experiencing the days of having a system? No, this cannot go on. No matter who took my system, I will find him. I must find him. Thinking of this, Hansen made up his mind. Hansen and the other two left the cave and prepared to return to the academy. During this month, the outbreak of the Warcraft tide also broke out with the Saint Laurent Magic Academy and the Holy Empire. Under the joint efforts of the Saint Laurent Magic Academy and the Holy Empire, dozens of Holy Domain magicians and knights were dispatched, and the Empire dispatched the most elite Violet Knights. Under such a powerful military suppression, the spread of the Warcraft tide was finally curbed and prevented from further spread. At the end of the war, a Warcraft that was about to step into the level of a divine beast, and the initiator of this Warcraft tide, was besieged by as many as 20 Holy Domain mages and knights, and was finally killed. In addition, more than a dozen Warcraft comparable to the Holy Domain were either killed or suppressed. Most of the top monsters were killed, and the monsters were leaderless, and the Violet Knights were chasing and blocking them. The remaining high-level monsters saw that they could not do anything, so they had to retreat unwillingly. A monster wave that shocked the entire continent was strangled in this way. As for Hansen and the other two, after going around in circles, they finally returned to the Magic Academy. When they returned, the three of them were already in a very embarrassing state, and they were almost out of ammunition and food. The most noteworthy one among them was Hansen, a figure in the academy, a third-year student who always gave people a calm and self-assured attitude, but when he returned to the academy, he was disheveled and embarrassed. He was often in a daze, saying something that others could not understand. And Anna and Jundi also had a lot less feelings for Hansen. Along the way, Hansen would get angry at any time and get furious with them. The gentleness and confidence that attracted them in the past also disappeared, replaced by obsession and resentment. After this incident, they also saw many things clearly. After returning to the academy, they never contacted Hansen again. On the contrary, the two of them shared the joys and sorrows, and were attracted to each other's personality. Therefore, they became more harmonious from the previous tit-for-tat. As for the Magic Academy, hundreds of young magicians died because of this. Their magic road was completely stopped in the dark forest. A broken heart and the loss of 1/10 of the young magicians were a heavy blow that Saint Laurent had never experienced since the establishment of the school. As a result, some turmoil occurred in the academy. Many mentors involved at this time were punished for this. Fortunately, the incident finally ended. Congratulations to the host for successfully recovering a system fragment. This fragment contains the points reward system in the system space. Because of your harvest, the system core has obtained related functions, which are now open. Please pay attention to the host. Congratulations to the host. You have gained the understanding of the laws of the entire magic field by completing the task. After Lin En deprived Hansen of the system in his body, he had returned to the Magic Academy. And the rewards he received have all been issued. This time the rewards are even more abundant. First of all, the system fragment. The points reward authority of the system reincarnation space is taken back. After Lin En's understanding, it is found that this so-called points reward authority is actually equivalent to the reincarnation space. After completing the task, the reincarnationists will receive corresponding points rewards based on the evaluation. Points can strengthen their physical fitness in the reincarnation space, and they are also the currency of the reincarnation space. At the beginning, Hansen strengthened himself by killing monsters to get points, which was actually a weakened version of this function. Since Lin En has taken back such a power, it is naturally a complete authority. The authority to serve only him. No matter what Lin En does, he can get points anytime and anywhere. Of course, these so-called points are useless to him. After all, the reason why points can generate value is that they were given by Lin En. But with this function, Lin En's identity as the master of the system is more complete. Now Lin En has taken back 2 permissions. And with these 2 permissions, he can completely find his reincarnationists in this world. Let these reincarnationists enter the system space, thinking that they have become the son of destiny, and then make various tasks for them to complete. Then give certain points according to the completion of the task, so that these reincarnationists can benefit from it. Of course, the one who benefits the most is Lynn. Simply put, it is to make these reincarnationists become Lynn's workers and tools. But Lynn thought about it and gave up this idea. Nothing else, purely because of laziness. Now the task system has not been taken back, and the core authority of the system is still weak. If you set tasks and find reincarnationists now, many details need to be completed by Lynn himself, which will undoubtedly consume a lot of his time. Instead of wasting this effort, it is better to read more books and improve your own strength. If you really want to find a reincarnationist, wait until the system core can be completely autonomous and he doesn't have to worry about it, then do it. Let's put it aside for now. Another thing worth mentioning is the mastery of all the laws in the magic field. Directly instill all the 7 laws of Lynn's magic into Lynn's mind, and all of them are improved to perfection. In other words, now Lynn only needs enough mana to be promoted to the holy domain directly. And he is a holy domain magician who is proficient in all the laws. You should know that many holy domain magicians have achieved the holy domain with a single magic system, and they have also followed this path to move up. These holy domain magicians are not unwilling to practice the second path, but there are many restrictions. The first is talent. This is an innate limitation. You only have an affinity with the fire element, and you can only communicate with the fire magic element between heaven and earth, but you can't attract other magic elements. Another point is time. Although the life of a holy domain magician is long, it is still limited after all. In their limited lives, unless they are truly gifted and talented, who can comprehend more magic laws in a limited time. After all, the magic world is so vast. Any knowledge of a series is worth their lifetime study. Instead of studying the second magic law in a thankless way, it is better to continue to advance in the field they are good at. For this reason, many sanctuary magicians are in a single field, and only those with really strong talents have the spare energy to study the second field. And Lynn, now all the fields have been thoroughly studied. Once promoted to the sanctuary, with his strength, he can immediately become a leader in the sanctuary. It must be said that this time the reward still makes Lynn quite satisfied. At least, it saves him time to study the totem field. However, despite this, after returning to the academy, Lynn still soaks in the library. It is worth mentioning that after returning to the academy, although Hansen was alienated by Anna and Jandy, he became more popular in school. It is very rare to pass the trial as a third-year student. Many teachers in the academy have already taken a liking to him, so they plan to wait until he reaches the senior grade. Then they will ask him if he is willing to accept their special teaching. At the same time, after returning, Hansen's relationship with Anna and Jandy became more and more distant, but because the three of them had a relationship after all, they still had contact. Hansen didn't understand why Anna and Jandy's attitude towards him had changed so much. At first, he didn't care. He just thought that these two people were a little shy when they saw him. But something happened later, which made Hansen realize that something was wrong. Because Hansen passed the trial and his cultivation level increased greatly, he was about to be promoted to the level of a 5-star great magician, and he had more admirers in the academy. Although Hansen said that he wanted to find the system and take revenge, he soon sank into the flowers and gentleness. He accepted everyone in the academy and hooked up with many beautiful partners. In the end, Anna and Jandy, who could no longer bear it, finally confessed. They revealed Hansen's philandering character in public, and then resolutely broke off relations with him. This incident made everyone in the college laugh, and also made Hansen's reputation for philandering develop further. After hearing their news, Lynn did not comment, nor did he pay much attention. No amount of gossip could dispel his thirst for knowledge. This was an instinct imprinted in his soul, and nothing could stop him from becoming a top student. Of course, this was just an excuse. More reasons were because this was still an old-fashioned plot. He wanted to see how things progressed. After all, Hansen's path had been changed by him. He really wanted to know if Hansen, who had lost his system, could still fight against the remnant soul in his body. This was one of Lynn's few joys and interests. Time passed quickly. Lynn's magic also improved rapidly in meditation day after day. 7-star Grand Mage, 8-star Mage, 9-star Grand Mage. Lynn crossed the distance that many geniuses may not be able to cross in their lifetime. In the end, he accumulated enough magic and successfully arrived at the threshold of the Holy Land. At this time, it has only been half a year since Lynn came to Saint Laurent Magic Academy. For other magicians, being promoted to the Holy Domain is an extremely cautious matter. Before breaking through, they have to make adequate preparations, such as various auxiliary magic potions and natural treasures to keep their mental state at the peak level. However, for Lynn, it is as simple and comfortable as eating and drinking. Just by reading a book, he suddenly accumulated enough magic power and then broke through. The movement caused by the full range of magicians breaking through the Holy Domain is naturally extremely terrifying. The mountains where the entire Saint Laurent Magic Academy is located, together with the surrounding area of 3,000 miles, all the magic elements all rushed in, like a whale swallowing a siphon, forming a huge funnel in the sky, pouring into Lynn's body. Such a large-scale agitation of magic elements caused the celestial phenomena of the entire continent to change. Countless creatures on the continent seemed to have sensed it, and they all looked up and looked in the direction of Saint Laurent. On the coast, the sea roared, rolling up waves hundreds of feet high, and countless creatures emerged and howled. With Saint Laurent School of Magic as the core, spiritual rain fell within 1,000 miles around, nourishing all things. This is the congratulations of heaven and earth. Countless people in this range, whether magicians or magic beasts, all benefited. Either their strength increased greatly, or they broke through the realm. For a time, everyone focused their attention on Saint Laurent. To be precise, they gathered in the castle deep in the back mountain. Such a big breakthrough alarmed everyone. The whole continent, even outside the Holy Empire, across the endless sea, there were also strong people who felt the same and cast their eyes over. Such a big commotion, could it be that a Saint Domain magician has broken through to the realm of the God of Law? Will another God of Law appear in the Holy Empire? Is this the realm of the God of Law? It is so much more powerful than the Saint Domain. Sacred, although the God of Law and the Saint Domain are listed side by side, there is only one word difference, but there is a world of difference. The Saint Domain is still in the human world, but the God of Law can live among the stars. It is so terrible. Many powerful beings who did not know the inside story woke up from their retreat, guessing and shocked. For those who knew the inside story, such as the many Saint Domain mentors of the Saint Roland Magic Academy, they were even more shocked. They knew very well that this scene comparable to the breakthrough of the God of Law was just Lynn's breakthrough to the Saint Domain. But the breakthrough from the 9-star Grand Mage to the Saint Mage can cause such a strange phenomenon. How terrifying would such a talent be? After the breakthrough, how much would his strength increase? Even if they just thought about it, they couldn't help but take a breath. The God of Law, Vino, was meditating. When he felt the magic fluctuation, he was startled at first, and then he was in the air in an instant. When he saw the person who broke through, he relaxed. He personally set up a magic circle to block the other Saint Domain strongmen in the academy who wanted to visit, and carefully protected him. 3 days later, Lynn succeeded in breaking through. All the strange phenomena disappeared. Lynn, who had just successfully broken through, was taken away by Vino before he had time to stabilize his realm. In the dean's office, Vino sat at the table, picked up the teacup, and took a sip. The tea in the cup was clear and had a faint fragrance. This was the morning dew collected by the beautiful woman in the sea, hidden in the heart veins, and extremely precious. This is one of Vino's favorite teas. At this moment, drinking this precious dew, Vino looks very calm on the surface. For the God of Law, nothing on the continent can stir up the slightest fluctuation in his calm mood. However, at this moment, no one knows that his heart has already stirred up a storm. Full system Holy Mage. In his long past, he has never heard of it. Even in the countless magic records he collected and the countless magic knowledge in his mind, he has never heard of it. Even in ancient times, when the world changed, magic had just appeared. That was the golden age of magic. But even at that time, there had never been or heard of the existence of a full system Holy Domain mage. But now, it appeared alive in front of him. At this moment, even as a God of Law, praised by the outside world as an ancient fossil of magic, a walking magic encyclopedia, and a god in the world, he couldn't help but have a mentality of witnessing history. After all, even he, when he achieved the Holy Domain, was only a single system. Later, when he entered the forbidden spell mage, he studied the second law. Even though he has been a magic god for many years, he has only just raised the second law to the magic god realm. And this has already made him very strenuous. But now, why do some people progress so quickly? He looked at Lin En's face, handsome appearance, clear eyes, and extraordinary temperament, and at this moment, he felt jealous. When this thought appeared, even Vino was shocked. A full system holy mage is so terrifying. Even an old man like me who claims to have been immersed in it for a long time can't help but envy. Vino had some thoughts of crying and laughing, and then looked at Lin En in front of him and said with a smile, "You were really excellent, exceeding my expectations." Facing the praise of a magic god, Lin En did not get carried away. Instead, he bowed slightly and said with a smile, "All this comes from your teaching. Because of your existence, I can achieve such results. I don't have the ability to teach you these. This is a full system holy magician, even I can't reach the realm." Vino said with some leisurely yearning, and with some expectation. "Speaking of which, I am really looking forward to seeing you enter the realm of the God of Law. What kind of grace will you have? You will see that day." Lin En raised his eyebrows and said with a smile, "And I believe that this day should not be too far away." The voice is very light, but it contains infinite self-confidence. People with strength have confidence, and people without strength are naturally arrogant. Therefore, Lin En is naturally the latter. Therefore, when the god of Law Vino felt this confidence, he nodded with satisfaction. "I also look forward to this day as soon as possible." After chatting for a while, Vino got back to the point and talked about his real intention this time. "This time you become a full system mage, which shows that your magic knowledge is already very deep. As a holy mage and my apprentice, you are already qualified to teach at Saint Laurent Magic Academy." Vino smiled and said, "So this time, I want to formally hire you as the instructor of the Magic Knowledge course of Saint Laurent Magic Academy, and also the Totem Field Knowledge instructor of the advanced class. Saint Laurent Magic Academy Advanced Class." Hearing this, Lin En showed a touch of surprise on his face. Lin En didn't know much about Saint Laurent, but he had heard of this advanced class. The advanced class was not included in the formal class sequence of the academy. After the students of the academy entered the school, most of them followed the first grade, second grade, all the way to the fifth grade. These are all ordinary students. But the advanced class recruits the elite among the magicians. They are real geniuses. Each one has the seeds of the sanctuary. This is the reason why Saint Laurent Magic Academy has become the oldest and most powerful school in the continent, and it also leads the magic trend in the continent. Entering the advanced class of Saint Laurent Magic Academy means that you have already stepped into the level of the holy domain. Because, as long as you can enter, your qualifications are good enough, and you have been appreciated and noticed by the instructors. At the same time, in the advanced class, the resources enjoyed are also the best. The best instructors, the best resources, the best teaching quality. Everything has created the uniqueness and superiority of the advanced class. According to the past achievements of the advanced class, the proportion of students in the advanced class who have achieved the holy domain is as high as 10%. Don't look at it as only 10%. This is already very scary. You know, now magicians are extremely respected on the road, and being able to become a magician means standing out from the common people and entering the aristocratic class. Therefore, everyone hopes to obtain magic talent and become a magician respected by everyone. Because of this, even if magic talent is extremely rare, it is difficult to appear among 1,000 people. But with such a large population on the continent, there are also many people who have magical talents. However, in such a large group of magicians, most of them can only be promoted to the highest level of 2-star and 3-star magicians. Only a few people can reach the level of 5-star grade magicians. Once you enter this realm, you will be able to become a guest of honor for the Duke. And at the saint level, it is difficult for one magician to appear among 1,000,000 magicians. For example, the Royal Magic Academy of the Holy Empire and the Saint Laurent Magic Academy, although there are dozens of saints at any time. But this is the top handful of magicians among the hundreds of millions of magicians. In the entire continent, except for these two top magic academies, other magic academies, together with the saint magisters of the casual practitioners, do not have as many saints as these two. Therefore, the horror of this opportunity can be seen. And now, Vino not only lets him teach in the academy, but also wants him to be a tutor in the advanced class. Lynn did not refuse directly, nor did he agree directly, but asked, "Dear teacher, I want to know, why did you choose me? The advanced class is of great significance. I think there are many senior instructors in the academy who are more experienced than me in building totems, understanding laws and fields." Vino smiled and said, "In their long years, they have experienced more than you, so their knowledge and experience will be richer than yours. But it is precisely because of the advanced class. Everyone is a true child of destiny. They think they are real geniuses. In order to prevent them from indulging in their own talents and to enable them to go further, the academy should give them certain blows and training while supporting them. And your existence will undoubtedly make them deeply aware of what is a real genius." More importantly, speaking of this, Vino sighed and said, "Nowadays, many magicians pursue the power of magic, and even fall into it, but do not pay attention to magic knowledge. This is wrong. The reason why magic is magic and the reason why it can exert powerful power is not only magic, but also the magic itself, knowledge. Knowledge is the source of magic power. During the great catastrophe in ancient times, if the sages had not studied tirelessly, even if they could master magic, they would not have been able to innovate and bring magic to the heights it is today. But unfortunately, people today only know how to pursue the power of magic and learn from their predecessors, but do not know how to adapt and create on their own. Nowadays, our magic has not improved for a long time. This is not a good sign. Everything in the world always follows the convention of prosperity and decline. If magic is not studied and evolved, I think there will be more advanced magic one day in the future. Knowledge will replace it. I don't know whether it is good or bad for humans at that time, but as an old man who has been immersed in magic for countless years, I don't want to see the day when magic is silent. And you, as a magician of God's will, have the possibility of leading the direction of magic, and you have been studying tirelessly and have profound magic knowledge. In addition, you have become a holy magician in such a short time. So, I hope you can become the instructor of the magic knowledge course in the academy, and at the same time let those high-level students know that it is not the time to be proud." Listening to Vino's words, Lynn nodded. Vino's reasons are very sufficient. Let Lynn find no excuse to refuse. Lynn thought about it and found that he could only agree. But before agreeing, he suddenly thought of something, so he smiled and asked, "My dear mentor, respected God of Law, you let me become the instructor of the magic knowledge course of Saint Laurent Magic Academy, I can understand. But I think that among the reasons you gave, there is still one missing." When Vino heard this, the smile on his face suddenly stagnated. But then he looked normal and said seriously, "Although I am reluctant to admit it, as a god of magic, it is wrong to lie. So since you asked, the reason why I let you become the instructor of the magic knowledge course is mainly because students nowadays are unwilling to learn knowledge. I hope that because of your appearance and temperament, more students can come to study." Hearing this, Lynn was stunned for a moment. "So, Your Majesty, the biggest idea in your mind is to let me use my beauty." Lynn was speechless for a moment. Vino smiled and said, "Make the best use of it." The news that Lynn became a Holy Land magician spread like wildfire. As the most recognized genius on the continent, when he was born, he shocked countless old monsters who had been in seclusion for countless years to come out to recruit disciples, and even the church believed that he was the holy son of the church. Of course, this does not rule out that the church wanted to flatter itself. After all, under the tough hand of the current majesty of the Holy Empire, the power of the church has been greatly curbed. The temples and chapels that were originally spread all over the continent, and even when the princes of the Holy Continent fought in the past, the church had done things like the divine right of the king, but now it is far away from the continent. The church wants to call the most talented little prince of the imperial family the Holy Son, and also has the intention of making friends with the royal family, hoping to reduce the constraints. At the very least, it can expand the sphere of influence of the church. But it is undeniable that even the God of Law personally came out to recruit disciples, which is enough to prove how amazing the talent of this prince is. And just last year, His Highness Lynn turned 16 years old and came to Saint Laurent, and successfully became a disciple of the God of Law. Today, in just half a year, he has already entered the realm of the Holy Mage. Such a talent, how amazing. I don't know how many people were dumbfounded. As the news of Lynn becoming a holy mage came, people also learned that the big commotion at the Saint Laurent School of Magic that day, comparable to the breakthrough of the god of magic, was also caused by Lynn. Just breaking through the holy domain, there was such a big commotion. If His Highness Lynn becomes the god of magic, what kind of sensation will it cause? Everyone is very curious, and everyone is looking forward to it. They are looking forward to it, and at the same time, they are eager. Looking forward to Lynn becoming the god of magic. Looking forward to Lynn's future. They are more eager for His Highness Lynn to lead magic to change again and take a longer road. Find a way to move forward for all magicians trapped in the sacred field. In the past countless years, the god of magic has been the end of magicians. But this is definitely not the end of magic. They want to know the realm above the god of magic. But after so many years, no one has done it. Even Vino has been stuck in the realm of the god of law for countless years and can't find a way to move forward. And the appearance of Lynn gave them this hope. Everyone believes that Lynn has achieved the Holy Land in such a short time, and the future god of law is just around the corner. They just want to see whether His Highness Lynn can go higher and further. Can he point out a way for future generations? The news that Lynn became a holy mage spread throughout the continent. Apart from the top few people, it also began to spread among the common people and even the lower nobles. Countless bards spontaneously wrote music for Lynn and spread his story to every corner of the continent. The royal family of the Holy Empire even sent messengers to bring Lynn a letter from His Majesty and to give Saint Laurent a certain reward. As a reward for cultivating Lynn. Although everyone knows that Lynn's ability to become a holy mage so quickly is his own talent. But as His Majesty of the Holy Empire, Lynn's father still has to express something. So he personally sent an envoy, and in the presence of countless people from the Saint Laurent School of Magic, he conferred Vino as the protector of the Holy Empire. Before this, the Holy Empire had conferred Vino, but as a god of law walking in the world, Vino had never appeared, nor had he ever accepted the Empire's conferment. This time, the envoy also thought so. So, after he read the edict, he planned to leave. But who would have thought that Vino actually showed up? Then, he gladly accepted the conferment, and publicly expressed that he was very happy to accept the position, and hoped that the envoy would greet His Majesty on his behalf when he returned. The news shocked the whole country. Countless nobles and civilians were delighted. You know, as the god of law on the continent, although Vino's Saint Laurent Magic Academy is on good terms with the Empire, he himself has never expressed any close relationship with the Empire. Because of this, although the Holy Empire is the most powerful country on the continent, it has always loved and hated this god of law. I am happy that he was born in the Holy Continent. But I am secretly wary of Vino. After all, he is not a member of the Empire after all. But today, Vino became a national magician, which means that Vino officially became a member of the Holy Empire. From now on, he will advance and retreat with the Empire, share honor and disgrace. Although Vino did not say it, as a god of law, this is his silent promise. How can such a thing not make everyone on the continent ecstatic? The whole continent held a grand carnival for this reason. His Majesty was in a good mood and personally signed an edict, declaring that the Holy Empire would be exempted from taxes for the next year. After receiving this news, both nobles and commoners applauded. They were even more grateful to Lynn. Because they all knew. The reason why Vino was willing to become the Empire's protector of the country was because of his disciple, His Highness Lynn. Now all this was brought by His Highness Lynn. Although this His Highness did nothing, his every move affected the entire continent and countless people. At the same time, the Saint Laurent School of Magic also announced an internal notice. After unanimous discussion by the school's Academic Affairs Office, it was decided to hire His Highness Lynn as the magic knowledge tutor of the Saint Laurent School of Magic. While being responsible for ordinary teaching tasks, he will also be responsible for the teaching tasks of the school's advanced classes. No one expressed the significance of this notice. Although Lynn has just been in the school for less than a year, and although Lynn is less than 17 years old now, he is already a holy magic tutor. Some tutors also know a terrible news. Lynn is a full department holy magic tutor. Because of this, although Lin En is young, he has surpassed many predecessors in magic knowledge. In the path of magic, there is no order of learning, the one who has achieved success comes first. Lin En can become a saint magician, so he is naturally qualified to be a tutor in the academy. It is worth mentioning that the tutors hired by Saint Laurent Magic Academy and all the academies on the entire continent have 3 levels. The most basic is the trainee teacher. This kind of person assists the tutor in completing the teaching tasks. Generally, they are below the saint realm and above the 5-star great magician. They must be enthusiastic, intelligent and talented. Most of them are students among the students, who are appreciated by the tutor and stay in the school after graduation. Just like Linda, who had an ambiguous relationship with Ron before. The second level is the specialized doctor. The doctor mentioned here is not the doctoral student that Lin En knew in his previous life, but a person with extensive knowledge and extraordinary achievements in a certain field. Just like the magic potion master, magic array master, magic historian, etc. The third level is the formal tutor. Formal tutors are like professors, standing at the top of the magic field, and can only be appointed by non-sacred realm. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.